getting on the ground making fixes, real-time fixes. Larissa.
Just kind of go.
Picking up our crap.
So do you want these?
Yes, please.
What
So
about,
need your lodging receipt.
actually, you know what I was gonna ask?
I know. I keep wanting to. Did you still need tires?
Thank you, sir.
Tire pump, yeah. An actual pump. I need a blatant tire.
How bad is it?
It's not bad.
Well, because when you leave, there's a commercial tire right around the corner here, and I'm
Oh, really?
sure they would.
Okay, I'll just get
Back
that.
you up.
Yeah,
We got tires.
yeah. It's front tire or something.
I'll buy them. Big engine. Big truck. There's people that had it, picked it out, like 11 grand and stuff. It's got a shop, huge air shops, huge tires. More than I really want. 18 or 17,000 miles.
Well, and those air tanks are pretty valuable air pumps. We use them in boats because we have air right seat.
Sure.
And the compressors and the tank on Amazon is like 200 bucks. And they're like really solid, really good. And they turn on and turn off automatically.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Turn the key on, ignition on, and then essentially the tank fills up. So it automatically fills the tank and then it's full, it shuts it off. So it shuts the pump off.
Hi there.
Yeah, well, it comes in pretty.
Very, I mean,
Got a four-wheeler, plowing snow, tires. I'm going to the truck.
Yeah.
When my air compressor, I went to the shop.
Watch and get excited to see what people have to do. Because I think looks like it's gonna come from every direction. Maybe it's going into that. I'm excited, I really am. Just all of them. So my family, I mean, it's a, yeah. Keep my conditions, that's right. Marissa, is it right to ask you a question?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
So what do I say? Do I just put the vote?
So we will only pay your round trip.
So
Mileage, so just, yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense. And we're gonna find the problem this time up the rest on my own.
Can't wait till the interpretive centers open again.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
we are too.
That's
So-
there's a kid.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've been, we could help us message and we've messaged you and people are, oh, I can't wait to see the new stuff. I mean, you're gonna see new siding and new roofing.
It's not new inside.
Right.
It's
We are gonna try to, change out some of the exhibit items and update some of the panels, but I mean, it's gonna look a lot like it did before as in terms of the experience.
yeah, and that's what I want to see is that.
Yeah,
But I want to see like the building itself. I want to see that up there.
yeah,
And I don't worry about what the actual looks like with the exhibits.
right.
Because I want but when I bring my kids there one day, I want them to see what I saw when I was a kid.
Mhm.
And I think people are gonna like that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, just the way that things work in the government. If we'd known about COVID, we could have done construction while we were shut down.
Yeah, right.
But, it doesn't work that way. You can't say, well, we're open and closed anyway. Let's just go ahead and do this. So, but we've partnered with the local museum and that's worked out well. So,
From the Grand Ron,
You know,
yeah.
with the school district.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but then you do it. Who I was sitting next to.
That was like the highlight.
Yeah.
That he really liked doing.
yeah, Nampa or Caldwell used to have like a frontier day for their school, you know, like all the grades would run through it. And we would send a booth down. We'd have a
Fine.
whatever.
You have a good evening?
Exhibit, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Was that right?
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah, I detailed on Olau Whitman. First Saturday I was here, I went to the interpreters there. I was like.
Yeah.
All right, do we staple or we just leave it like it is, right?
You can just leave it like it is, that's
All
fine.
right,
So,
thanks a bunch.
very important, RAC members, if you have not yet, I need your lodging receipt and your reimbursement request form for your mileage. I don't need meal receipts. You'll get the standard per diem per day. So, but round trip mileage and yeah, you can have this bag.
Are the Grand Round closed?
Oh, so
Yep.
excellent.
Are they
Yeah. Well, it's, when we launched, it was at 3,000.
still?
Yeah, but yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's so nice
Well,
to have flow, whereas the John Days at like, I looked yesterday.
It's 1,000. I think.
Yeah, it was 960.
At Service Creek,
Yeah,
I've got a permit for 30 mile to Cottonwood and the 14th of July.
oh yeah, you're gonna have like 75 CFS.
I know, I'm bailing out. The only reason I was going because I had 2 young kids to catch some.
Yeah, you can do it at 75. We have you just, you know, you're like,
I wouldn't do it at 400.
no, right? I know. I don't like doing it anymore. I would beat myself up on that river.
I don't want to drag my boat.
Loading it at 100 CFS.
oh, no.
Oh,
Rain.
Uh-oh.
Well, pop the lid on mine yet, but I don't know where we have came a little bit lighter on this one.
but
Yeah, it was just, you
where are you?
Yeah.
Where do you-
You want some?
Oh, okay. Yes, I do. Calview, it says here, 161 miles, but it says one way. Correct. Double check. But it said.
So how much the Calview?
161.
Yeah, there's
One way?
probably more people that live in Calview than we did in Moffett. You can still have people
Well,
now.
that got to be more.
Yeah,
Probably like 500.
500.
Oh, maybe 600.
Yes. But it said 161.
Okay.
And so 161 signed up to. Way.
Oh, that looks much better. I don't know how that happened.
Thank you.
Well, here's the head technician today, huh?
Yeah.
We'll muddle through anyway, I guess, I'm Joe.
You guys are trouble.
Well, the way it popped right on. I thought it was gonna dump right on you and it did.
Yeah, no, we're good. I just threw up a message.
Sticking my hand in the way it would have been worse.
Hang with us. Oh, that was to Amanda, but I told the whole group. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Sir,
Is that readable?
yes.
That's what they printed out, not very.
Yep. Nope, that's perfect. Thank you.
It's in your tonsils, you know?
Oh, and y'all do have new updated contact information, and the old ones were shredded, so any personal information is now
Thank you very much.
relegated to the bin.
Sorry.
You can imagine how that happened. That's,
We'll call it tie-dye.
of course, we've probably all been exposed in that DMV thing.
Probably, yeah.
Or scratching skin flowers, but everybody wants something to scratch my shirt. I probably should have said I didn't sound like I did, but. Maybe not, so I don't just go like that. Only one that's so like the first. Yeah, very. We saved chocolates.
I was so thinking one day.
Don't let Jane know.
Just the change.
Yeah, so Greg did respond to my text, and yeah, he's not gonna make it. He thinks he told Caitlin, but it just might not have gotten me.
And then Glenn was had some
Family.
issues. Okay.
And Randy's upstairs.
Yeah, and I think he's in Europe or something.
Yeah, it's overseas. And Sykes was on the river.
Okay,
Oh, is he?
Randy's in Alaska?
That's even better.
I'd rather go there than Europe.
Mm.
That's
We
good.
talked, did
Yeah.
a lot of fucking things, because I just got back from Razor Climate, and he was going the next day.
Yes.
Good little town.
Tom?
Yeah, my bucket list was wildlife seeing in Alaska, and got to do a lot of that when I was there. Okay, you think we're about ready?
Yeah. Terry,
It's more than, it's more than one.
Okay, that's good.
They need to change it.
are we,
Here, Terry, let's just give you a question.
yeah, there you go.
How?
I didn't know.
Well, that's like 169 right there.
I just took from Baker to Bellevue,
What'd you get?
206 miles.
Yeah, see, because I got 217.
Oh, my God, okay.
257.
Well, I don't know, this is wrong, this said 161.
Ah.
All right, are we ready to start?
Need a new app.
So what are we agreeing to?
206.
206, time change. That makes more sense if I think about the time it took me to get here.
I know, well, it says on the deal, how long.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's a trek. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Says
So-
59 minutes on here.
Yeah, it is 3 hours. Thank you.
That's. Oh, man. Don't believe anything I say.
All right, I'd like to do, start with introductions. We have a couple of our members have shown up. So Katie, if you want to start? What?
No, do you want to introduce yourself?
Introduce yourself.
I know, I'm roughly seeing the time that I showed up late.
Oh, no, we're glad you're here.
I think that everyone speaks Latin, and we probably might, wherever we are. Katie Nelson,
Jim Rice, Sisters Oregon, Dispersed Recreation.
Shea White, Meridian, Idaho, Dispersed Recreation, environmental groups on here.
Oops.
It's okay.
Larissa Bogartis, Vail BLM PAO and RAC coordinator. Joe?
Joe Aragon, Vail BLM, office field manager.
Steve Lent, Prineville, Powell Butte, archaeology and historical.
Mary Fleshman, Bend, Oregon, environmental issues.
Susie Copper, Sandy, I'm sorry, the energy and minerals. Harry Reverdy, Baker City, citizen at large and very sloppy. Well, it's not late. That's true. It's still better.
Mia Shepherd, Moffin, Oregon, and represent outdoor recreation.
Model. How you. And public at large.
Okay. Zoomers, can you hear us?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay, Amanda, why don't you start the introductions?
All right. Good morning to everyone and welcome, Mia. I think we've passed in the night. I was there yesterday and now we've flipped. I'm Amanda Roberts and I am the district manager for the Prineville District BLM.
Thank you, Amanda. Chase?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Chase Bloom. I'm the district ranger on the Prairie City Ranger District to the Malheur National Forest.
Welcome aboard. And TJ, glad you could join us again this morning. Want to introduce yourself? All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Housekeeping has not changed. We've gone over everybody's turned in their receipts and got a contact list. So next up.
Discussion on John Day-Snake RAC planning subcommittees. What we discussed yesterday.
So
Yeah.
if you don't
Yeah,
mind
so I
me
just,
leading this,
Yeah,
a
go
little
ahead.
bit, there's some stuff we
Well,
are.
we'll have Larissa start off.
Thinking about some tough issues we talked about yesterday, conundrums, whatever, and that was, of course, there's the issue of homelessness on federal land and the problems that it's causing. And the way I feel about that is that really disrupts the functioning or makes it difficult for the agencies because there's a tremendous cost in dealing with that and the damage that occurs to the public land. And so my question is there anything the RAC can do to assist in helping the agencies deal with that, unless they feel they're dealing with it without, they're okay dealing with it, then I guess there's nothing to be said, but there's something the RAC can do by elevating concern and support the agencies need to deal with that. That was one thought. The other issue, which is a housing issue separate from that, is of course staffing and the difficulty the agencies have had in staffing. I think that goes for both Forest Service and BLM in areas where the housing costs are so high at the salary levels that the employees come in at. They can't afford the housing, and there have been many situations, as I understand it, where people have decided not to accept jobs with the agency because of the housing cost. And so that makes it difficult to recruit people and maybe to keep people. So that's a separate issue. And the question is, again, back, is the RAC anything can do to assist the agencies in dealing with that problem? And of course, if you're elevating something like those to higher levels, that makes it difficult for the agency staff to get involved with it. But the RAC maybe is able to address that issue. I think back to something that Randy Jones said, and someone correct me if I'm wrong. He said there was an issue in which the RAC put a letter together to the congressional level to try to address. I can't remember if Randy was here to address an issue of some kind, nothing to do with the two I just mentioned. So the question I raised is, would a subcommittee to try to come up with solutions or address solutions to one or both of those issues, something that makes sense? Number one, is it appropriate for the RAC to do that? And how does that relate to difficult issues that agency folks may have when you're dealing with something delicate like that? So I haven't been around long enough to know what the pluses and minuses of that are, but Randy was the one that led me to think that maybe there is something in that area that we can do. So I throw that idea out. And again, they're two separate issues. So you could consider one or both of those.
That was one of three, new committee proposals back in October. Just so you know,
Okay, I didn't know that it was actually accepted.
it wasn't accepted, it was just proposed.
It was proposed, okay. So, again, I understand that this one is a little different because it's not like the agency will come and say, well, we want to have a fee increase, and that's one issue. But my question is, can the RAC do more than simply approve fee increases? And so, and I'll leave it if an agency person wants to comment on that thought.
I don't know if they came in that.
Okay,
From my perspective, I think we want to keep it in our discussions, but I don't know that we're ready for a subcommittee on that. I think it'd be beneficial if all of us went home and kind of brainstormed a little bit about what we might want to try and do, and we'll come up with something a little more concrete. Because I see us just spinning our wheels there as a subcommittee right now. But I don't want to take it off the table. I think that's something we should probably talk about at every RAC meeting we have and see what's washing out or not washing out. You know, what's going to happen on Hummel Road when they throw all those people out, where they going? Maybe there's going to be some solutions that are going to come that are above our power. So again, I'm just one person. I just don't feel like that should be a subcommittee right now.
are you talking about both issues or the issue of the homeless is a conundrum that I agree, you know, I haven't come up with anything that I think really deals with that at this point.
Oh, I could see the housing issue, perhaps a subcommittee on that. You know, we've talked a little bit about buildings that are in possession of the Forest Service or the BLM that aren't being utilized fully. You know, can we come up with some possible solutions with GT Public to maybe rehab them, or, and I know that's a tough issue. We've talked about that before, but I guess I'd be open to a subcommittee on that issue, but not the homeless issue.
So,
That's my point.
and I want to make a further comment on that issue and why I think it's so important. And that is, I believe the issue of the housing is seriously affecting some offices of agency to fulfill their mission.
Sure.
They are not, and our mission is protecting, conserving, stewarding the public land. And that is seriously inhibited by the current situation, by the difficulty they're having in that area. So to me, I'm very concerned about that.
Okay. Well taken.
Yeah.
I'm just reading over some homeless laws or seeing what's pertinent in the state of Oregon, and I know that there were some laws being proposed, some new laws, and I don't know if they've passed, and that would be something to look into, because that would change, I think, the landscape or the scope of things. But it says here in Oregon, there was a bill, and I don't know if it passed, would decriminalize homeless encampments in public places and allow homeless people to sue for $1,000 if harassed or told to leave.
Did
So
not pass.
that did not pass? Okay.
Right.
So then. There we go.
Is you guys, is the Oregon legislature still in session?
Yes.
It is.
I think probably be the last day.
The decided by the.
Oh, sure.
You know, like these are still to look at today.
Looking at it, where I'm happy that one didn't pass, because we really would have a huge
Yeah.
issue in the forest. I don't know what the federal side would be, how they would rule on that. I mean, but with the state of Oregon. So I agree. I do believe we need to address some. We need to go back and look at, we all need to go home, think about what we can propose as a group to these different to like BLM Forest Service of what they can do, because I mean, hearing Amanda yesterday saying she has 16 employees out of 25, that's really hard to manage. You know, that's a lot of acreage to not have a full staff. I mean, if it's housing, you know, one of the things that one of the groups I work with, Forest Services allowed us to have a head of every different government property in Hell's Canyon, where we go in, they go in and go, okay, we need to look at this. What needs to be fixed? So just to keep it up, because when we have a crew go down there and it's raining in April, you don't want to be in a tent, but there's a perfectly good building right there that they can be in with, that they can get dry in and stuff like that. Maybe there's a possibility of finding property and having groups be able to build that up so they can have their staff stay there. You know, maybe not on the actual BLM land or Forest Service land. It's a possibility. Find groups that would be willing to help. You know, because a lot of the groups that I deal with, they're contractors, they're plumbers, they're different people like that know what they're doing. We shoot one of the groups, we even have a guy who runs a hardware store. So he sells it to us at cost and we go in and fix it. You know, it's just kind of a different way of looking at it. But
Sorry about that.
Just as a side note, and 'cause I know that's an issue, but for the past 2 summers, we have at our house housed a fire crew member because they could not find a place to stay. So it worked out for them, it worked out for us too. So. But that is a definite issue because they were sleeping in the car out, you know, whenever they could in a campground until they go to another spot.
right.
That's not a way to spend your summer working.
So separating the issue and just looking at the agency housing issue, I do have thoughts on that. Not at this point to bring them, I'd rather bring them out to subcommittee, because it would take too long to conversation, but I have come up with some thoughts on solutions that could be considered. So I'd be ready to engage on those ideas without going back and thinking more about it, because I've been thinking about this for a year now. So anyway, just a comment on that side.
Sounds like you should be the head of that.
I do too. I think that too.
Should we vote on that?
Yeah, we can. What do you think?
I don't disagree, but let's rewind just a little bit and have a more general subcommittee discussion. Mary, I have maybe well, I know I have an old subcommittee list. So if you could tell me the other 2 that were proposed in October.
Yeah, there's a waterway recreation, and right now we've got Shane on that.
Okay,
And then the other one was the renewable energy and grids on that.
okay,
And then the one that talked about is our staffing and recruitment,
okay.
agency staffing.
That would
Okay.
get into that.
So just to kind of start this conversation, and we will come back to that. The subcommittee concept came about several years ago because you know, the agencies were bringing fee proposals to the RAC. And we only met quarterly or less. And if we had questions, concerns, wanted more information, then we had to send it back to the agency and they were potentially delayed several months in getting that recommendation that they needed to move forward. So the subcommittee meets usually a month or 6 weeks before the regular RAC meeting, if there's business to be discussed. Washington, after some back and forth, allowed us to have the subcommittee. But technically, we only have one subcommittee. The RAC, John Day-Snake RAC, kind of chose to have some, I guess, subcommittees. And so, for example, you know, Shay would be the lead of the, and so those folks on these subcommittees are kind of the point people who are maybe doing a little more research and initiating these conversations and bringing information back to the RAC.
But we did have subcommittees via Zoom, but they had to be on the register, correct? They have to be
So
public
a formal subcommittee meeting has to be
for public.
noticed in the Federal Register. If fewer than a quorum of RAC members want to have a conversation, nothing prevents that.
Fewer than a quorum.
Fewer than a quorum.
So we could have a Zoom call with 4 people. And
Yes.
They could all be on a somewhat designated subcommittee, but not even call it that.
Right. And then, so obviously, if you're not a quorum, you can't vote on anything. And basically, yeah, you're having your conversation, then you're probably going to bring it back to the RAC, either in the formal subcommittee discussion or the formal RAC meeting, depending on that.
Basically, they're departments of the RAC, of,
Yes.
yeah, where that's.
I do feel that there's important social, emotional aspects to retention in houses. And we talked about that before at this meeting, and so that's why I'm saying if we do proceed to have specialized food for conversation, I still need to know that families are feeling welcomed and that people are being treated with respect. Because otherwise, people leave.
Terry. Terry's got her stuff up.
In the past, what we've done with subcommittees is discuss the problems and then brought it forward, no voting, just brought it forward to the RAC, and an idea for the subcommittee, like housing subcommittee, is just kind of identifying the problems and identifying some of the solutions. And then we can bring it back to the RAC and say, okay, here is what we found. How do you want us to proceed?
When you call them to the attention that paragraphs that describe the subcommittee. Yeah, right there. Can you see
Can you
that?
see that? We can read it out loud.
Terry just said for about that.
Yeah. Yeah, she did a great summation.
Good job.
So. And I can certainly, you know, once we get some assignments done, whatever, I will forward this document to all of you, so you have that information.
So,
I have to go back to the beginning and ask the question, is the one on the agency housing within the purview of the RAC?
Yes.
Are we within the boundaries of what a RAC is allowed to do?
and according to that, and then from what I've been told, that these are our bylaws or our, you know,
Marching orders.
marching orders. We can do this.
Well, we've done it a lot in the
Yeah.
past. I mean,
Mhm.
time and time again.
I was gonna ask,
Amanda.
you were going around the table for us to make comments also out of kindness, being that I met a lot of rats. When this is up, people have the floor and a lot of people are over speaking others, and I don't think it's very professional. So I just wanted to say that, I'm not trying to figure out anybody, I've done it myself, but this works, I may not join.
Yep.
Okay.
If you have questions, put your stand right here like this, and then put it down after you're done.
Amanda.
Amanda?
Thanks everyone, and thanks for the discussion. What I would, from my seat, what I would encourage the RAC to consider is where the impact is to the resources, right? And consider the crossover there. Tom, I think you've asked, I can assure you there aren't any processes that you're thinking about that we're not thinking about and trying to correct internally. We want to make sure you're fully up to speed on what our limitations are. And just a quick correction, Shay, my staffing that I described is for one field office. That's the Deschutes field office, which is on the western side. We also have the western side or the eastern side that is much better staffed. But we also have considerations both for the admin district and then fire personnel. Total, we've got about 120 personnel, with about a third of those being fire personnel. And then a split between field offices and district staff. And it's felt across the board, particularly with hiring seasonals. But I would just encourage the RAC to consider the impact to the resources and how you all might help advocate there. We do have to take direction from you. We're happy to do so as a FACA. And I would just caution against making recommendations to our internal processes as a RAC. What I would encourage you to focus on is the impact to resources and how you could communicate that outside of the federal agencies. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but if I were to make a suggestion on where to focus the energy, that's what I would recommend, is the impact to the resources and how to communicate that externally.
Thank you for that correction, by the way. I apologize.
Oh, no, I don't expect you to have all of our offices memorized. I just felt like that description would be helpful. We're not hurting quite as badly as I had painted that picture. So I just wanted to make sure that was updated.
Amanda, I really appreciate you clarifying that and how the focus of the RAC should be to, really, to focus on the impact to the resources. And that's, and I'm just listening to the conversation about, helping the BLM address the housing issue. And, I'm just wondering how, I know that the BLM needs employees to look after the resources, but is it really our job, here as a RAC member to, come up with the housing or try to figure out a solution for the housing issue? I'm seeing my time bent better, like she said, to focus on the resources and, to focus on the wildlife and the rivers and, recreation in terms of, voter cost issues on the John Day. So there is a subcommittee that was, I guess, recommended waterway recreation. Focusing on, like, I think that, resource management planning. I know that there's, that's something that the RAC should make recommendations on if there's ever a resource management plan that comes up for reevaluation, or, that is important and where the RAC is needed. So I don't know if there's other, the Blue Mountains, is there a plan right now?
Yes,
For that?
yes.
That right there should be something that we should be giving recommendations on. There should be a subcommittee, I think, on.
There is.
Oh, there is.
Ta-da!
Okay, good. Okay. I would like to know what's going on with that. What's the discussion there? Have we come up with any recommendations? Yeah. Okay, John Day River Recreation Subcommittee. So there is one. Let's get to that.
Yeah, Tom, real quick, let's run through these just to know what we
Okay.
have before we think we need to throw a new one out there.
Okay.
Following up on what Amanda said, that's exactly my thoughts. I don't think that we should be dealing with the internal aspect of it. I was thinking externally and the assistance that we could provide because we are allowed to speak externally. And back to what Mia said, I do feel from my perspective, my experience in working, that there is a resource issue here when you don't have the staffing to administer the water, the wildlife, the rivers, when you can't effectively do that if you're constrained by ability to get staff at all levels, but it's a 5, 7, 9, or 11 position, I feel it's a resource issue.
Okay, so we do have a Blue Mountain Forest Plan Subcommittee. Those group members are Randy Jones, Jim Rice, Katie Nelson, and Terry Drever-Gee. I know Dave mentioned that they're getting that standing back up, so,
Been a long time.
yeah.
They've put together, the Forest Service has put together a team,
Mhm.
and they're gonna be going out and publicizing that. Right now, they're in the process of just the beginning of the whole process again.
Mhm.
So in the next few months, they'll be putting out some information.
So scoping and so forth. Okay, Katie's.
Yeah, thank you.
Apropos Tom's remark. When there's not enough people to keep the trails open or passable, so that older people having help a disabled person has to climb over a log. You know, I mean, I don't want tourists in Grant County, don't get me wrong. But but you know what I'm saying, for people who actually want people to be able to enjoy the forest. We can't go out with chainsaws. And the employees have like more important things to do with their time and not enough people to do that basic maintenance that lets you actually be out there. I just want to say, I've seen that, okay, experienced that.
Okay, so does anybody, oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, we'll go down the list and then we'll talk about if anybody wants to jump in or. So we have a fire fuelscape biomass farm bill CX subcommittee with Jerry Brummer, Randy Jones, Steve Lent, Katie Nelson, and Terry Drever-Gee. I don't know where this is anymore. You know, the farm bill is kind of over and done with. I think primarily that, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the interest was in some of these more landscape scale treatments and collaborative work. Is that right,
Yeah,
Steve?
and trying to use the biomass processes that are out there. I
Mhm.
do know that if Jerry Brummer was here, he would probably have something on it, because they're trying to do something in Pineville right now.
Mhm. And I think there's another one coming on in John Day. Is that right, Katie?
We have a mill running in Prairie City right now for the first time in years, if that's what you're referring to.
I think so.
It's, it was a tremendous community effort from the federal level down to Jim Hampshire on the mill in Prairie City.
Okay.
Jerry.
The success story, just to have one moment and it was good.
Yeah. The
Yeah, I think that the subcommittee kind of lost a lot of steam when we went out to the Hardy power plant, and the biomass, they did a run and it didn't pan out because they couldn't get enough of the material. And so it kind of petered out on that end, and from my end, I almost think that one should go away for a while. It's just,
okay. So let's run through the full list
Sure.
and then we'll circle back.
Yeah, then we'll comment.
Well, I think I'm telling you about the wrong thing. There's a plant down in John Day. It's a biomass plant, isn't it? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that, yes, okay, much talk, no result. That's it.
Mhm.
So
Okay,
let's run through it all and then we'll
Okay.
comment, okay?
okay.
We'll circle back.
Hills Canyon Fee Proposal Subcommittee. Did
That-
that ever go anywhere?
No, because uh, the Hells Canyon Recreation Collaborative came up with a different alternative that the Forest Service is using.
So,
So right
Okay.
now, that's dead in the water. That's,
okay,
the Forest Service sent us a signed letter saying we'll hold off for 5 years, see how this works, and then go from there. So that's not even going on right now, and they're not even discussing.
okay,
They they were adamant against it when we went down and the trip up the river that time.
Yeah.
They weren't for it at all.
No, they're not, because things are getting done without,
Without having to-
yeah, without a fee.
okay, so, we probably can scratch that one out then for now. John Day River Recreation Subcommittee, is that the same as,
Larissa, I think Shay just wants to run through them real quick.
right? But, okay, yeah, good point, sorry. And, that one's got Steve, Bob Krine's no longer with us. Jim Rice and Brian Sykes. The Lower Deschutes Business Plan and Fee Proposal Subcommittee is Greg Jackal, Jim Rice, and Brian Sykes. We had some non-RAC members that were on these committees as well, and I'm not sure where we are with that. I haven't heard from those folks much, and I don't know that we ever had an agenda item that they could engage in. So that's what we have.
Can I comment on the last one? The red, the end of them?
There's 2 more.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2 more. You do.
Oh,
Sorry,
thank
sorry.
you. Mineral Resources, Terry Drever-Gee, Randy Jones, Susie Copper, others depending on location. And I think we said because, for example, Prineville's working on some management planning. And the Outdoor Recreation Subcommittee, which was addressing several issues on different forests mostly, and that was Randy, Shay, and Steve. And that really is the last one.
So Tom and then Jim.
So am I mistaken? I thought there was 2 water-related subcommittees, but there's only one.
Well, we haven't voted to put a subcommittee for
Oh, so
that.
that-
Yeah, that was just brought up at the last meeting and we were gonna vote on. Yeah.
So county what is up there and was proposed, is there 2 or 1 related to water and lake? 1.
Okay, so these are proposed right now. We'll just flag
Let's
them,
go
but
through
let's
the
go
ones
back.
that are there, 'cause
Right.
Some of them are obsolete.
Okay, so,
So Jim, go ahead.
Well, okay, I'll do the Lotus Shoots one. We did all that. The fee proposal subcommittee. We were successful and brought it back to the RAC and we got the extension for the BLM basically. So that one right there, I don't see us moving on that. So I would propose that we take that one off.
do you want to ask Amanda if she sees the,
No, sure. If Amanda has some input on that, I'd be more than welcome to do it.
I just want to make sure I'm tracking which one it is. You're talking about the John Day River Recreation Subcommittee or the Lower Deschutes Business Plan. I would need to check in with Lisa. I don't think that you're gonna, and Larissa, just FYI, I can't respond in the chat for some reason, but I do plan
Okay.
to present for 5 minutes on the Bar North Trailhead.
okay, thank you.
I will check on the Lower Deschutes Business Plan and fee proposal. My hunch is at the very least, what we might need is one short meeting in advance of presenting to the RAC. I hope I'm not naive in that, but I would say leave that for a little bit, but just know that it would be a short term, a couple meetings, we present to the RAC and then move forward. But the point of a short meeting initially would be to get some input from the RAC. But generally, I think we're mostly in alignment with what you all are interested in. So anything we'd propose, my hope is wouldn't be from so left field that it would take a long time. So please keep that valid. I'll double check with Lisa.
Well, Amanda, this is Jim. I was the head of that subcommittee and we proposed it to the RAC. It was accepted. We took it back to the planning commission for the shoots. And the first time in like 5 different times where they denied it, it went through. And so now BLM is getting that extra money every day. It's not the 2 and 7, it's the $5 every day. That was the whole point of that subcommittee. And it's done, it's finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then cross it off. We're good. I just don't until my role as the district manager, I never paid attention to the Deschutes.
Well,
And now that they're in my purview, I am paying much closer attention. But Jim, I'm not up to speed, so I really appreciate that. I wish you'd caught me before I disclosed that confession.
Well,
And the reason why I jumped on and was like, John Day, you need something for the John Day. Anyway, thank you, Jim.
So I guess before I might set my deal down, we should probably vote on deleting that subcommittee off as a RAC. Can we
you
do
can, or
that?
you can just do it by consensus.
Okay.
It's not
I'm ready to do it if
it's not
everybody else
considered formal business.
is.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Is everybody okay with deleting that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Get the stuff done.
So
Same with those in.
just to
Yeah,
keep
okay,
me on
well,
track.
that's done right now, but like Larissa just said, they can always bring these back. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not they're gone forever. It's just, they're off the list right now.
From all the years that I've been on the RAC, you can have too many subcommittees where they get watered down. Let's get some specifics. It's gonna be homeless, or build housing. Let's get that in there and give that a whirl. But again, I think those 2 that we just got rid of is the start.
Okay. John Day River Recreation Subcommittee.
I think that one's
You should be on it.
I think that's in general, like if something does come up with recreation, they would take it up.
Amanda?
Well,
Well, Mia,
Okay,
go ahead.
sorry. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you have right now the 30-mile plan, okay?
Mhm.
Not only that, here very soon, there's 4,000 acres being proposed. And there's gonna be a plan for McDonald Prairie, I'm sure, okay? And then you have the voter pass issue. There's a lot of things going on for the John Day. And so that subcommittee needs to stay to address those things. And I would also like to be on that subcommittee.
I think that's good. Yeah.
So,
I concur with Mia if that was the question for which you were shouting. I'm sorry, I did step away for a moment. And the Priest Hole area is also going to become, well, it's an exciting proposal. You asked yesterday, Tom, about bill funding and IRA funding. We're getting a significant amount of money to put that plan into place, which is a fee rec site at Priest Hole that is organized camping instead of dispersed camping, which will make an incredible difference for the resource there. And Mia, we close on McDonald's Ferry. It's looking like around mid-August.
Okay.
Can I just say something? Well, that's exciting to hear that Priest Hole is gonna become a fee area, and hopefully then RVs won't be parking in the boat area anymore. Like taking up the entire launch spots.
So I'm wondering, that's a specific area of recreation. Was there another subcommittee proposed besides that in recreation? Is there any?
Water recreation, I think that's just in general
Yeah.
throughout our whole coverage.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
not, that's a river specific. This would be all in general.
All
The recreation, water.
So this would be
recreation,
more
just all in general.
focused.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify what.
Yeah.
Right now.
Okay.
I think when we had the Shoots one and the John Day one, they were perfect. We needed both of those separate. And when it's a waterway, we can probably break that up again if we need to, but I'm all for this John Day one staying, and the other one going. And I think maybe what we ought to do is go through and just finish out which
Yeah.
ones we want to get rid of, and then start going and figuring out which ones we want to make subcommittees.
And so at what point are you gonna have people nominated or?
Right at the.
Okay,
Once we
yeah.
get all
Then
the
after
proposals.
the fact, okay.
Yeah, let's figure out what we have.
Great.
And, okay, mineral resources.
Wish there was something,
Yeah,
wish there was something I could do. I feel like I'm not helping on the committees.
that's all right. I don't think they've met as a group.
Terry.
What I suggest with the mineral resources subcommittee is slash, like what we're gonna be dealing with right now are the alternative energy. Like the panels,
Renewables,
Solar, and
solar panels and then as it comes up, we can get specific.
so kind of merge, there was the idea of having a dedicated renewables committee.
Oh, that's a good idea. We could put it in mineral resources because I mean, the resources to build these are minerals.
Well.
Yeah.
coming up and
Mhm. That's a really good idea to put that in that. Because they all tie in.
Okay. Next up, outdoor recreation subcommittee did work with the Willow Whitman on their recreation fee proposal. I have not heard from them out here in a long time as to whether they still have a fee proposal floating around out there. E-bikes is still out there. It's being, it's more over on the other units, more central Oregon, but there are,
You have not here.
yeah. So, Chase, in your 2 weeks, do you know if you're still looking at a fee proposal?
Yeah, I'm sitting here racking my brain. I know that there were fee proposals that were being developed the last 18 months, and some of the key authors of some of those have retired or moved on, and so I don't see any imminent fee proposals coming up in the next 6 months to a year anyway.
Okay. So, and then e-bikes in general is really a planning issue and a travel management planning issue in terms of the forests and the BLM. And so certainly y'all can engage in those conversations.
I almost feel like that was something I was gonna bring up for a new subcommittee, because it's just gonna grow. And especially as that kid got killed in Bend, riding it as a 15-year-old. And I'm under the guise that Bob Crine was, that if it's got a motor, it's not to be on non-motorized trails. Simple, but it's gonna become more and more of a problem all through the state.
I think we need to leave that.
So,
Leave it in there or create a new one just like that.
I just wanna confirm with you just that I see e-bikes as a big problem.
mhm.
And in other words, they took them off the Phil's Trail. Thank goodness. They're a different animal and they're dangerous. The speed at which those things go, I think it's gonna be a problem here.
I had a kid run me down on one. I was driving my truck and he was on the sidewalk and he passed me. And I was doing 40.
Oh my.
And someone's been killed.
Yes, someone's been killed. So yeah, they are. I agree. It's not a bad idea to put it in its own subcommittee.
Yeah, it has to be a standalone.
So an e-bike subcommittee.
I would like to see issues like this addressed in planning stages. I see people putting parks together in my hometown, and now the question comes up, can we ride RVs there? Can we ride bicycles there? Conflict results. Can we make a recommendation to people who are trying to manage things, that they put it in their earliest plans, how they're gonna handle it? Because you're right, and this is what we have to deal with, and you don't want to just, if you're going to have conflict, you can minimize it by having road signs up from the beginning. Yes or no, whatever, that's all, because now I'm seeing what happens when they didn't get a plan for this. I don't know, but bad examples.
So Amanda or Chase or Joe, would you like to weigh in on kind of, the process of addressing e-bikes within our planning frameworks?
Sure, we do. Mostly in travel management, and we put them into the plans very early. BLM has a national e-bike. Larissa, you spoke to it a little bit, but we are kind of working on how to classify e-bikes. We don't get to regulate state law like speed or the required use of helmets, etc. What we do say is if motorized or non-motorized vehicles are allowed in our travel management plans, and how e-bikes is getting classified is basically happening at our headquarters office. That's not happening at a local unit level, at least for the BLM, right? I'm only speaking for the BLM. And so when we're addressing travel management, that's when we're addressing e-bikes. I hope that helps to clarify. Let me know if there's still questions.
No, I think that answers, yeah. Terry?
Maybe we can have a committee that looks at travel management, because the other one that we were talking about earlier, the Blue Mountain travel, well, travel
That'll come
management
out, yeah.
is that.
Right.
And that's where you get all of the contention in that management plan is the travel.
The travel part is the biggest. Yeah.
The only suggestion that I would say is that, well, and I don't know if it's a suggestion, but when we have a travel management plan, any of our entities, it might just be a good time for the entire RAC to make comments, right? As the RAC on that EA. And they're fairly infrequent, fewer than one come up a year. BLM is working on travel management for McDonald's Ferry. We're probably, as Mia said, in the next couple years, going to be working on travel management for, if I said McDonald's Ferry, I meant 30 Mile. We're currently working on the 30 Mile travel management plan. We will be working on the McDonald's Ferry travel management plan. And your comments are very welcome in those EAs.
I like that travel management subcommittee
Yeah.
where it involves the e-bikes,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what it is. I mean, whether they allow them or not.
Okay, so
Amanda, just to clarify something, because my biggest concern with e-bikes is actually on trail systems, and not so much as traveling, but it is the competition between people hiking and riding e-bikes, which is a big question of whether they're motorized or not, and I think they are motorized. So is that what you're talking about in travel management, including trails, or what is the?
Often, yeah, trail use and what's allowed on trails is a piece of travel management, Steve. And it is addressing that user conflict and what people might be interested in using certain trails for. I don't predict that we'll see a lot of e-bikes out at 30 Mile just because it tends to be a boater destination, although people might want to hike and do other things while they're down there. I believe we're addressing that. Horse Ridge which is right outside of Bend, where it's a big mountain biking community, is a different story, right? Where there might be a ton of interest in varied types of recreational use for those trails.
Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna do two more on this. We do need to move on. We have another presentation that we're a little late for.
Well, Amanda, I want to address the, sorry, 30 mile. We had a presentation, I believe it was at the last meeting, where some of the public, well, the public comments were at 30 mile that they wanted to use powered elk carts to take game down. Well, that's a motorized vehicle as well, and it wouldn't surprise me at all that during hunting season, there would be e-bikes down there all the time to run up those primitive trails and roadways to get up higher to do some chucker hunting and things like that. So I think a little premature in the fact that you wouldn't see them down there. I'm almost positive you will. Sorry.
And you're totally right, Jim. It's probably my naivety there. And it will get addressed in the travel management draft EA that will go out for public comment, right? As the alternatives for each of those routes. And you're right, that was sort of my summertime naivety.
You're okay.
So a question in terms of, it seemed like the agency, Forester Field, would come with a travel management plan to the RAC. So the question is a subcommittee appropriate then, or would the whole RAC take it on? I'm just wondering where this fits in, because the agencies would come to us with a travel management plan involving. So would the subcommittee then take that issue, or would the whole RAC?
Well, the subcommittee would comment on it or do the research, comment on it, bring it back to the RAC. And then the RAC would, in general, all of us would vote on what we would like. Yeah. Okay.
So do we want to assign people?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I'll be on.
I'm sure I can get it.
I'll be on it, maybe.
Yeah.
I want to be on it. Travel management, I'll be on it.
Okay.
I was gonna. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna offer my service.
Yeah.
Sounds like everybody wants to be on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We're gonna end up with a quorum pretty soon. Okay. Okay, so I've got Shay, Jim, Mary, Terry, and Mia. Anybody else? Going once,
Yeah.
twice? Okay.
And if it becomes a huge thing, we'll just take it straight to the RAC and
Yeah.
from there. I think that's
Well, and it's always been the RACs within the subcommittee realm. I mean, any RAC member can attend any subcommittee discussion. It's not a closed or restricted space.
so. We have waterway recreation on our proposed, with people already saying they want to be on it.
Mhm.
Okay. Do we need to vote to add it, or?
No, you can just
Just existing.
say we need it. I'm just gonna put it up here. So like all the water things are together.
Okay, good idea.
Put me on
Yeah.
Formatting here.
Oh.
Tom, go ahead.
If I don't know if I'm supposed to.
Oh, no, I think it's
I mean, waterway is my thing.
Okay.
I'm happy to be on it too.
I'll represent the motorized gas.
Okay, so we do have some people who are absent that I think will probably want to
You wanna be on it?
Ryan.
be part of that as well. So we'll, again, this is not a fixed or finite list. It's just,
Regarding the motorized. Again, this is if I'm including it, don't forget senior citizens. Like, when we hunt, we may need something to help get the meat out And, I want to ask you to consider, like, don't make blanket bans without, viewing things like that, because that's important.
Jim, go ahead.
But I will say that, if we are adamant about limiting a motorized vehicle to not be on non-motorized areas, that is perfect, I think. Yeah, I mean, I'm a hunter and I realize that. Okay, there are other ways to get things out, like with your grandsons and all that stuff.
Say everything about the otherwise, if we wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Circling back down. So then there was, I'm not even sure housing homelessness is gonna work as one topic. I mean, it's kind of two different things. I mean, people who are living on public lands for various reasons versus employee housing. You're not you're apples and oranges.
Apples and oranges, and I think the orange is good to delete the orange, which is the homelessness.
Okay,
Homelessness is way too
Yeah.
complicated, difficult thing to tackle, but the housing may not be so.
is that kind of what we're?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna lead this, right? Okay.
I need help.
Anybody else?
Pick me up on Blue Mountain, I'll be on that.
Okay, Katie, did you want to be part of this one?
Well, I need you guys to advise me on that, like I've told you, like I'm a psychologist. How we got here, no one knows, okay, but I'm here. And what I'm seeing is trying to help have a community, be a community where people who work for federal agencies feel safe and would like to live, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the, again, I'm interested in respect
Mm-hmm.
in the community, so.
So I think that
Okay.
does kind of,
He says, yes.
yeah, I think that's definitely a retention discussion, you know, Katie, and so you could be a valuable voice in that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'm just looking across the room to see if anybody would. possibly
Jim's
be
coming off
interested
the
in
forest.
the agency or not. Wanna be
What are you looking at me? You could put me on there, because I have dealt with some of the
Okay,
solutions.
all right, let's circle back to the top. So Blue Mountain Forest Plan. We've got Randy, Katie, Terry, Jim dropped off, Mary wants on it. Anybody else?
Definitely on it, because again, I have to keep people from fighting each other.
Okay. You're already on it.
I'm going to re-up.
All right, okay. So file fuelscape biomass, keeping it, killing it,
We can keep it.
okay?
Doesn't hurt.
Jerry, Randy, Steve, Katie, Terry. Mary,
That's in your country,
oh, wait,
biomass. Yeah, but it's dead in one country, so.
okay.
Well, what do you
We're
think?
killing Hell's Canyon,
Yeah, that one can go with.
Waterway Recreation Subcommittee. We've got Shay, Jim, Tom, Mary, Mia. Did I miss somebody? Okay,
Brian would be on that.
Brian will probably be on there, yeah.
yeah.
Good point.
He's-
Keep forgetting about Brian.
Well, and yeah, I mean, again, this is not a finite list. We can certainly add him to anything he wants to be
Mhm.
part of. Okay, wait.
Yeah, let's go to John Day.
Okay, John Day, we think this is still a very viable and needed
Tom wants. to be on it.
topic. Okay, anybody else? Lower Deschutes can come, let's call it a win. We, we fulfilled our duty and we've scratched it off the list. So we're gonna make mineral resources, we're gonna add renewable energy to that. Mary, okay. Anybody else? I don't know why I keep doing EI and RE and stuff. Okay. Okay, yeah, good point. Thank you. Okay, so we've got Mary, Terry, Randy, Susie, Greg. We'll just leave others depending on location, kind of in that discussion. Does anybody recall, Amanda, what is the Prineville Rockhound Management Plan?
So that is our hope for Glass Buttes. The area, it's not just Glass Buttes, but it would include Hampton Butte and a couple other areas. It would designate that area as a recreation area for the purposes of rock hounding, and it will bring some organization to both of those areas, allow for more communication. And so we are not even at our very preliminary stages, just that needs to happen. It's pretty rare to have a recreation site designated for rock hounding, but we think that this is what's needed there. So long story short, we hope to start working on that. We have one district geologist, hope to have him start working on that in the next couple months.
Okay. Yeah, great. So you know who your committee is. Oh, anybody else?
Working with Oregon Council and the manager was done, is it called, restore the land, but it's a different word, reclamation.
Reclamation.
We've been doing that in Hampton Butte. And I would love to be on that committee because the council's been wanting to do that in kiosks.
We have you.
You're good. All right.
Okay, Outdoor Recreation Subcommittee. We think Malhere's off the table for a while, but if so, do we need to clarify how this is distinguished from travel management? Because, or do we want to take e-bikes out of outdoor recreation and put
Well,
them
maybe
in?
maybe the outdoor recreation can be the discussion about e-bikes,
Okay,
but then the e-bike, whether they're allowed on trails,
in
it
planning.
goes into planning.
Okay,
So, because let's face it, the technology e-bikes is just going to increase,
right.
but there needs to be a limit at some point.
Okay,
So that would be actually physically talking about what that is.
okay. So we got Randy, Shay, Steve. Anybody else?
You can go away with it?
Yeah.
Well, because you have preschool that's gonna be under the John Day area, we'll talk about that there, and then, right, it's under there.
Yeah.
And then you have e-bikes under travel management. So it just, I don't know.
But with,
I would,
with outdoor recreation, we gotta realize that there's ATVs, UTVs,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of different things. So I think the outdoor recreation subcommittee needs to stay there.
Okay,
Because we have all sorts of different user or different forms of travel.
Well, I see in travel management, it says motorized and non-motorized. So I kind of agree with you that it would be okay to say goodbye to that, but we can leave it in there for now.
yeah, leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it there for now,
Nothing.
we can come back to it next meeting and see. If we
Yeah.
can do it.
okay. So I got Randy, Shay, Steve. Anybody else want to be in the committee? We don't know if we're gonna keep. Okay.
She's in like that.
All right, travel management subcommittee. I think we've, yeah, that one's done. Employee housing. Do we have others we want to
I think
bring
we're
into
good.
play?
Kind of gotta move on a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we want to vote and approve these?
okay.
It's consensus.
It can be a
Okay,
consensus.
we're with consensus.
If anybody's opposed. All right,
All right, yeah.
And you'll give us a printout of those.
yes, sir.
So, um, Amanda, you want to talk about Bar North Campground?
Yeah.
Sure. And this is really just going to be a brief primer. So this will be a way for you all to just get your mindset on maybe what the fall meeting will be with a potential fee increase proposed, or a fee proposed for in the Deschutes field office. So we have a trailhead near the Klein Buttes recreation area. So it's kind of near Redmond, Oregon, that has a ton of different recreational activities. Bar North has been developed to support motorized use with routes for motorcycles, I say 4x4, but quads, UTVs, and even Jeep crawling. And when this site was developed, the staging area was designated with a handful of campsites, but we never put in those campsites. They weren't finished, and so it's become dispersed recreation or dispersed camping in that site. So the field office is planning on completing the development of those individual sites, rehabilitating the area in between the sites, right? You all got familiar with that a little bit yesterday at the site you visited, and adding some amenities that include, beyond the restroom that's there and the kiosk that's there, ultimately we'd like to have water and trash service there, and just bring some organization to the area to minimize resource damage and impact, because it's not organized right now. And in order, if we provided those amenities, it would allow the office to charge an expanded amenity recreation fee, right? So when there's water, campfire rings, picnic tables, etc., that allows the agency to charge a fee. That fee goes back, as we talked about yesterday, to support those recreation sites. We do get some funding in the area from OHV permits, right? So the state sells a permit for every OHV, kind of like a license, and we get a little money from there. And that is used for trail development and maintenance. The overnight camping fee would provide the additional amenities, but with those amenities come the cost of maintaining those amenities, and that's what this would support. It would also reduce the potential for this site to become an area location for houselessness or people who want to stay beyond the 14 days that's allowed. So my hope is that this is just an introduction to the idea, and that in the fall, the subcommittee and or full RAC committee would consider a fee proposal for the Bar North Trailhead, in which we'll propose some maps. Our outdoor rec planner, who was going to present today, is out sick, and we want to make sure that you all just hear a glimpse of it for what might be coming in the future. And so we'll present this more formally in the fall with maps, some photos of the area, and a more fully baked plan for how to organize it.
Okay, so conveniently, this would probably go to the subcommittee in September for some discussion and fine tuning, and then brought to the RAC in October for a formal recommendation.
Okay.
So do you all feel like that falls under one of our committees, or do you want to designate a committee for that?
No, I think it falls under, it could be outdoor recreation,
All righty.
because, and I'm happy they're gonna develop campsite, like, that's exciting. Tom?
Okay, good thing we kept that one then.
Go ahead.
I'm curious about something on this. So Bar North is north of the highway, right? That site, north of the highway.
In full candor, Tom, I don't know.
Okay. Because I think
I'll need to ask Lisa.
Okay, I think I passed it by. So is this going to be overnight or day, or both day use and overnight?
I believe the fee proposal site is for the overnight campsites. There is not a fee for day use.
Okay. And there is a nice developed site north of the highway, I assume that's going to not be put on the proposal, so, okay. And, oh, that was another thing. Oh, is this unique to have, OHV or off-road vehicle camping area and fee, is that not unique? There are others like that?
I don't think it's that unique in the scheme of outdoor recreation, especially in this area. We've got Four Corners that has that and a handful of other places.
It has a fee.
I'm not sure I heard, you're harder to hear, Tom. I don't know if you can project your voice to the owl a little bit.
Look at the owl.
Look at the owl.
When you talk.
Owl.
Oh,
So is the other one fee side as well that you mentioned?
No,
Jim,
Yeah, just real quick, I think it's on both sides of the highway. For that, I'm almost positive.
The fee?
Well, the proposal to have a campground and improve the trail systems.
Because that other one on the other side of the highway is mountain biking and hiking and not an OHV area. I'm just trying to clarify. I pull in there a lot just for a short time here and then.
Okay, so maybe I might be wrong.
I think they're talking on just to the north of the highway where Bar is.
Carrie?
is there a public comment period on all of this before it all gets initiated?
what I understand from what was the information that was given to me is that NEPA was already done. And that this is just us implementing it. There may be a need for something like a determination of NEPA adequacy before we move forward. But my understanding is that was already put into a plan. BLM is simply behind in building the infrastructure that goes along with the plan. What we do need to do is go to the RAC to assure that we could charge a fee.
Okay,
Gotcha.
thank you.
And there will be a comment period associated with that fee, right, Amanda, as that goes forward?
The way that you're nodding, I'm going to say yes. I don't know, Larissa. What I do know is that we've got some really fantastic NEPA planners who will tell us what we need to do to make sure that we're abiding legally by the law or the Federal Register for implementing it.
So generally, yeah, there is a public feedback component to the fee planning process. And the RAC has in fact, recommendations have in fact influenced fee plan decisions. So it's a valuable resource.
Any more questions? You good, Amanda?
I'm good. Stay
All right.
tuned for more, unless we wanted to set a date for the RAC subcommittee right now in September that might allow us to put a deadline on our side to put the fee proposal forward.
All right.
So we'll need to have the notification time limit,
Yeah, and then that gives them time to prepare.
right?
So that makes sense.
I'd encourage late September if possible. I don't know if the other meeting dates have been set, but I look to you, Larissa, for that.
So we have not set subcommittee. Wait a minute. We might have set a date, but we could change it.
Okay.
And we don't have to vote on that. So if I could
Okay.
circle back with y'all by email and we'll figure out a date. Amanda, would that work with?
Sure.
for you?
I defer to you, so that works fine.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to know, because I'm following along, would that be a different subcommittee? Or is that already we go under?
That's already going out over on outdoor recreation.
Yep.
Outdoor recreation.
Far north. Yeah.
And Larissa, I'm gonna need to step away for just a little bit, but I'll be
Okay.
back.
Great.
You all need me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, presentation on National Historic Oregon Trail Interpretive Center. Sarah.
Stand by.
You've met Sarah before, I believe?
I think I
Yeah.
was this group at your last meeting, I was doing virtual since you guys were.
Yeah.
I believe.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Carrie. So for those that don't know me, again, my name's Sarah Sherman.
Good.
I'm the project manager for the center while we're under our renovation project. So I'm just gonna give you some highlights since we've been a little quiet, but been very busy. So as you guys well know, the beautiful view from up at the top of this.
Next up.
So at the last presentation, I mostly gave you a big, long spiel about our visitor interpretive experience plan. We are working with a third-party contractor, BC Associates, based out of Corvallis. So I gave you the long spiel, so now I'm gonna just give you a short spiel. They're busy working away at this plan for us, covering all of these 4 things, making sure that things look really pretty and tidy. I'm really excited about this project because it's not just our interpretive programming that we're talking about this piece. It's integrating all of the other pieces, so it all ties up nice and neatly instead of being a piecemeal product. He's looking overall at the center as a whole. And right now, they're actually looking at our profiles for our visitors. So who are we wanting to engage up at the center? Knowing that, again, the center's been there for 30 years, things change. Are we looking to bring up younger people? Is it tourists? Is it local? So they're doing all of that legwork for us. You just gave us the first draft, which is mostly looking at our goals and objectives. So the goals spanning from the southeastern Oregon RMP all the way down to our site-specific goals and objectives. And mostly those look like increasing visitation, talking about invasive species, talking about cultural preservation. You know, things that we want people to walk away with at the end of the day after visiting our site. So, let's see here. He actually just pushed out his site visit, so he'll be coming in early August for the next one to engage our stakeholders. So I'll keep this group posted when that does finally fit in, but it's looking like that first week of August. We'll do another round of draft review, and then we'll hopefully have a final plan by this winter, so December. Any questions on this?
Go ahead.
Oh, I've got some other things, but this is the big, thing that's cooking in our pot right now. It's actually getting some. So.
So do you know that it's planned, is there in the winter that, is there an opening date?
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
What we want.
Yes. So the goal is that this plan would be all ready for when we do the.
And that date could be?
Look like May, end of May of 24.
Exciting.
So I'm gonna make you go to your crystal ball
I'm gonna say it.
prior to getting the report from the thing. So if you look at historically, you have some numbers, visitation numbers for the site.
Yes.
What you were having, and before you shut it down.
Yes.
And you were looking at what is it gonna be like when you open it up? What's your gut tell you is gonna happen?
So my gut, and I get to rely on some of my great partners who have also crunched numbers with me for this good guess. Next year, we're hoping for about 50,000 visitations. And we'll hope to keep that number, which is just above where we were sitting right before we closed, which is about 40,000. So increasing that by 10,000.
Well, I know for a fact that when it's done, I'm coming, ready to see it. I'm excited about that.
We are too. So when this is ready, we can go to the next slide because we're going to cover more of this topic. But I like cliffhangers. I want to talk about stuff that we are doing while we have been closed. Like I said, it feels like we're quiet, but we are trying to actively engage the local community These pictures are from 2 weekends ago now. We hosted our first ever Oregon Trail Days event. I know you guys are Pullman Park. I don't know if any of you were able to stop by. But I would say it's a success. There was like 502 attendees for the day, which was just on Saturday. We did have other programs going on Thursday and Friday before with our normal performers. I say normal. There are great performers. Mike Foley, who's been coming to the Interpretive Center for at least 20 years, same as Karen Haas. So if you know Dr. Balthazar, he was out at the farmers market on Thursday and then did some performances on Friday as well with Karen at the Heritage Museum. We also signed a new friends agreement. And we got to announce that, what is that, there at least a month now?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Feels like a month.
It feels like a month. We've been working on it for so long, but that friends group agreement is with Crossroads Carnegie Art Center here in town. They'll be taking over operations since the government did this thing last year. So we're doing gift shop operations, help coordinate volunteer services, other types of programming opportunities. So we're really looking forward to working more with them. We also have a teacher on public lands intern. So this is a bureau-wide initiative where we host teachers. They come out for the summer and help develop some type of education curriculum or things that we're just not always necessarily talented or gifted with. So we do have a local candidate. Her name's Angie Rosales. She's with the Baker 5J district. She's a social and emotional coordinator for the district, working with kids 1st through 6th grade. So we're excited to have her on board. She's going to be helping recreate the foundations, if you will, for our field trips and our programming, making sure we're integrated in with the Oregon curriculum, meeting those standards that 4th graders need to meet. Not only just looking at 4th grade, but middle school and high school, at least hitting some of the older school groups as well. And then lastly, we're continuing our operations at the Baker Heritage Museum here in town. We do have that staffed Monday through Saturday with our temporary exhibit. So if you haven't stopped by, I believe Larissa worked it out, but you could stop in and say hi and pick up people who have it.
Where's it at?
It's over on Grove Street, so as you go back towards the freeway, York's has the big Oregon Trail map and the steer out front. It's right up there.
Right past the park, it's on the next corner.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and Lynn, has very graciously offered to let you all tour all of the museum, not just our portion. They have a great Chinese presence in Eastern Oregon exhibit right now. They have a terrific rock collection, don't they, Susie and Terry? So it's well worth spending some time over there.
Yeah. I'm a little partial because I worked at the Yale Peabody Museum and they have a great rock exhibit, but this one here blew my socks off. It's really cool. So I really take a look.
So I'm sorry.
No.
So are you saying we're allowed to go, it's open where we can go this weekend on Saturday? We can open?
I believe
Yes, during museum hours, just tell them you're with the RAC and Lynn approved you.
That's exciting. I'd like to make a couple of additional comments.
Yeah.
Being a board member of Crossroads and a volunteer at the museum. The event they had here, they also had the tribes,
we did have the notification come, yeah.
which was a really big crowd pleaser in the tribes. They got the people out and they got them dancing and it was really great. It's cool. Now with the museum, we have seen increased visitorship in the museum, along with people coming in and wanting to know, they're kind of going, we want to go to the interpretive center. And after we explain to them that they're just out there upgrading things and doing a lot of that, telling them that next year, Memorial Weekend, they'll be open. And we've got a ton of people that will be back. And I think that's really, really good. And with Crossroads, we've been working on this. We've had keep our mouths shut for about 6 months now. And we're all excited there too. So anyway, that's what I have to say, and I'm standing
I
right.
don't have anything to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to chime on that. Yeah. We, the BLM, we saw this as like a setback, having to close. And, in order to renovate, but the partnerships and the relationships that have been built since then. Is a perfect example of how a setback turns into an opportunity and a benefit for the community when you're thinking outside of the box. So I think this example here is a perfect example of what the RAC can do moving into the future related to other, whatever the issue is
Yeah.
that you think is a setback. If you apply your brain differently, like Tom is trying to do, it can totally be an opportunity at the same time. So just wanted to chime
It's an aha moment.
in. Exactly.
Tom?
Aha.
So when I left my previous job, I was really interested in place-based service for education. That was what I really liked. And so I assumed the local school districts are fully integrated and visit.
Yes, but we actually need to work on building a stronger relationship with my opinion. Doing that instead of it just come bring your school group at the end of May because you're tired. How can we better be involved when you come down and do presentations in that classroom? When you come up and we're reopen. And I want to actually hit that point when we do reopen because it is in May, right when schools get in and whatnot. Like, are we going to go into the classrooms and give out 4th grade passes to encourage those kids to come back from the summer with their families?
And how far, you know, David City,
Yes,
do any other communities further away bring a field trip in?
they do. And it's interesting because we have, buses that come from Idaho and they're like, oh, we knew you were close, but we wanted to go see.
I was a fourth grader.
Yeah, so we do have, it expands, not just local Baker, but we can do field trips, over in Ontario.
Can't help but say it, and going back to my previous, I really like the idea that BLM is reaching out and connecting with people as an organization, and they learn that BLM is valuable and useful.
There have been just a phenomenal amount of things, especially for the kids. We have the buses that come in and we have summer camp. And so for a week in July, we have all these kids that come in and they have a whole week of things that they get to do. So it's really having the BLM there and the people there at BLM, they've even taken on giving some of the history of the trail, the Oregon Trail, and really getting people interested. And I hope that when it opens, that you keep part of that down there in the museum, because it really, really is conducive to the partnership and to the people downtown too.
That is our intent, and we're actually proposing to leave most of that exhibit, even when we do go back to the top. We do need to take the wagon that's on the 2nd floor. That does have to come back, because it's kind of a normal exhibit, but that is the intent. No, I want to
That's
keep our
great.
presence down here.
It's always been a conflict experience when you do that, because my great grandmother walked there. And I still live, in a house there, but I really feel I represent indigenous.
I'm trying to, I know, it's,
Because the Haley's Floridian and I work with clients. So when I'm trying to work together, in my own life, how to put those things together,
So I'm glad you bring that up. We actually took a field trip, the BLM team that I work with, and so the Whitman Mission from Colorado. And obviously they have a very conflicting history as well, and kind of garnering some of their lessons learned and best practices for how we can move forward with this the same situation, obviously. So I'm excited to work more with them. It's a Park Service. I haven't been out there. It's beautiful. And like I said, they're telling a great story and they're baked in with the tribes up there. And I aspire to have that type of relationship. So we're working towards it and it's going to be a slower process, but it's a meaningful process.
Okay, I think I've got it figured out now.
Look.
Hang on, I'm gonna-
We're not. seeing-
I'm getting there. All right, I gotta figure this out.
It's a big, the swear button.
It was wonderful. We had parents, we had kids.
All right,
This is the first of its own.
Yeah.
yeah, bear with me. I'm trying to,
All the way to the last day. And they were scared that they were gonna make it with all. the
there we
papers.
go. Okay, there's that now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that was rough.
I think you want to side of the presentation.
Whole bridge was.
Yeah, but I gotta figure out how to share.
I know the mileage, like 340, 380.
Go ahead.
But I don't know how long. I think it's like 3 hours. And they drove back.
Not sure why Zoom is not enlarging for me. Okay.
I would love to get more support financially, so we can better compensate them. We pay them out of our base
I
operation.
don't know why they're not getting.
Sue,
I have a question. Is this gonna be an annual thing?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. This will be a flagship event.
I
So
don't know
next
why
year,
it's
we're gonna
not.
Start planning for it now.
I
We
understand
get
that
trucks and more
somehow it's tied to here,
In
but
the
I don't know how to get
In the park,
back.
yes. The event will always be in the park
Um,
because we do acknowledge that driving out to us is a
share.
barrier for a lot of local families.
Problem is I can't get the big screen to be able to.
Have it be a feed program. So no, it will remain in the park. And so the dates for next year, I believe, are June 13th and 14th. We do acknowledge that we're competing with the livestock shows that weekend, and typically the livestock shows also bring in rain. So we did set up the wagons on Friday. Well, this is getting this all set up on this side. We brought 6 of our 8 wagons down. We have one that's in front of the Heritage
Okay.
Museum. So we actually had 7 total in the park that day. But it was
I know, I'm
pouring
getting nervous.
Friday. All of our shoes were just squishy with rain.
'Cause it's,
And
I
we
mean, I don't know why the
moved
window
them all
won't
into the
open.
circle, but just kept saying, just keep raining, just rain all it out. So on Saturday, we had beautiful weather. It was picture perfect.
No,
It was perfect temperature. The butterflies were flying around. All the
where's-
swallowtails. Yes, it was.
My
I
meeting
can't after that.
controls though.
Terry,
And there were other nonprofit organizations there that were doing these things.
There's not finished with
So
the
it was really a
slideshow.
community
I
event that
don't think
was
so.
put forth by the BLM.
Yeah, it was great that we
Yeah,
had
so she's
Crossroads
got-
and Heritage Museum. The library came over to
All right, well,
do more relations with their summer reading program. So I feel
okay, well. Okay, thanks.
okay. Want to move on to the next.
So here's our next slide.
Yes, so obviously talking about construction. They were supposed to be done next month, but then they found a rotten beam and they're gonna replace that. So everything, I know, right? I was waiting for this last shoe to drop and then dropped a month before we were gonna move back in. It's just a slight hiccup. It seems like it's gonna be pretty easy to fix. It's just adding it to their contract because it wasn't in the scope of work and all the fun legalese, government. Yes, so I'm expecting it to be done in September at the latest. That still gives us plenty of time to get in there and do the tweaks that we wanted to do. It'll be a little more rushed, but since we were planning for 6 to 9 months of all of that, it's okay. We'll keep you guys posted, but we are looking for reopening Memorial Day weekend of 2024. I just started drafting invitations, started working on the press release, because we do want people to know ahead of time so they can plan their vacations around it. It'll be a big celebration. We'll have keynote speakers, activities, of course. Any other great ideas that this group can come up with, I'd be all ears for. I want to make this really special for Baker City and
Have you reached out to the media about Memorial Day?
We did put out some save the dates to key partners.
Okay.
Um,
I was gonna say,
And-
because I know that gets on the news in Boise. You're
Oh,
gonna.
yeah.
You'll have
Once-
people come.
Once construction's done and we're moved back in and we feel solid, yeah, we will certainly get it out there as early as we can, but don't want to tell people we're gonna open on this day and then have something go wrong.
Well, if it comes down to it, I've got a connection with Channel 7. And you
Okay,
could get her to come.
hey, now that would be awesome. We'll work on that. Shay. Channel 7.
I have a question for you. Is the Gary Smith exhibit gonna be about the same, at the same time?
yeah.
And that's a huge thing.
Yes, we are trying to overlap with the Gary Smith show at Crossroads.
Here's
He
one of his
painted
plans.
that lovely poster for the original opening. It's called Oregon Finance, I believe. We are working on getting the actual painting loaned to us. It's currently at the Booth Museum over in, I think it's in Georgia. It's in Georgia. And then he also painted Fanny, who is the pioneer woman. If you go to Baker Heritage Museum, it was on display for their Extraordinary Women of Baker, but I think it's actually moved over into our exhibit. And then we're looking at hanging it down there, but they might loan it out to us as well for this reopening. Or less with what's going on at Crossroads. And the idea is Gary's retiring after 60 years of painting, being recognized for like the State Department as one of the painters of the American West. He's
From Baker.
He is from Baker. He's a Baker. Thank you. And he's going to do his final show here. So the show's called Towards Home. So this idea of being faith-based, and we're reopening it all kind of starts a lot. And it's kind of together. So they'll be having that show for 6 weeks from Memorial Day, basically the Miners Jubilee, which is a big event here. You don't know, and we're gonna work with Crossroads, obviously, as the Friends group, but as partners too, on getting more stuff going on for those 6 weeks, so it's not just one big thing, a bang, but it's actually long term. And this is what's going on right now. They're putting the final touches on the big, beautiful windows. You didn't know, the windows that are going in are actually gonna be double pane. I don't remember the R factor, but it does limit the amount of sunlight coming in, but you still get that fantastic view.
And that's a little warmer.
Okay. That's your next slide.
I was gonna say, that's all I have.
What is that in the middle?
Will you still be having people demonstrate? When was Marissa, you remember when you took me there a few years ago?
Mhm.
They were having some demonstrators, but they were running short. And they were talking about how they were in and out,
Good.
show people
Doesn't-
how they were processing food, primarily and that stuff.
So that was a lot of children volunteers. So we don't have that base anymore. I was like, we're kind of limited. We do have my Copa.
It's not even showing up on my screen, Joe.
Look up.
But as far as other like living history performances, we're pretty limited. My two park rangers that we have right now.
Well,
So hopefully we'll be able to provide, but we're looking more to what can we do with the staff that we have and make it super successful. And successful being it's tied to education curriculum, it's meeting our objectives. And that's more gonna come from what you've seen associated doing.
okay.
In terms of
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. This is exciting.
Yeah, so I'll catch it. If you don't have my contact information, get all of them.
Okay,
All right.
now, I think if I do this right.
Yeah, if we can. Yeah, I think we can take our break while this is going.
Oh, it's short, but so this is a friendship circle dance that they asked everybody at the program to take part in at our Oregon Trail Days event.
For what it's worth, I met him often at the 100th anniversary.
Mhm.
The Warm Springs Indians came down and did a dance session.
Yeah.
Too, which was great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely a big hit. All right. Break
Take a
time.
break. 10 minutes. We're. I'm 8 minutes. I'm 8 minutes.
You gotta crack the whip shake.
I know.
Somebody's got you, you know?
It's so hard to.
I know.
Good job, volunteer.
It's fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I wasn't going to say that. I think if you it was starting to my nerves and I apologize.
No,
Maybe
no,
it was out of
fine.
line.
No, you were perfect. You
All
were
right,
perfect.
thanks a
Good.
bunch. I
Yeah.
thought maybe that wasn't very professional.
No, you're good.
What's that?
Yeah.
You know, if anybody that wants to buy a house.
Why are you selling one?
Oh, I'm glad you're staying.
There's 4 or 5 of them, you know, owns that section. We've owned it for 24 years.
Okay, but it's.
Yeah, you guys.
Connection.
Probably will. Hard, yes.
Well, I'm gonna put it up, I would say just go for it. Just like.
She's one.
Put that up in-
I posted it. She can have a role of what to do.
But.
She's about my age. She remembers me as a kid. So she'll appreciate it. And then I know a lot of people that live there will appreciate it going. Let's go.
I'll bring this out, bring this, because there's, I
Because I
actually.
know there's some over here. Don't they?
Take a picture. Are you going back that way? Oh, okay. Well, it's insane how Moffett has just exploded and.
For me, I thought that it just.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Just like, well,
Yeah.
you had our, I'm getting too old. I was from there. I wanted to. No, I don't think so.
Oh, I was like.
So anyway.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks. Yeah, I actually might send that to somebody right now.
Yeah, whatever, we. yeah,
Oregon
some
Ducks
deals,
trying to
some
hold.
some paint, They like that out there. I know.
Yeah,
It's a long way.
But it's just I mean, it's a manufactured home. And how old is that?
It's an 82. Yeah, but it's the winter package. Yeah,
Okay.
it's, I mean, it's kind of something when you have it seen area, it's like a 12. That's really a nice thing.
Hmm.
But again, I'm not selling it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, right on, thanks.
Sure, okay. Was gonna say something. You're not old enough, but you're not 80 for the radio.
I was gonna say, I'm of the era of the game. I know.
So
Or is that, it's the John Day-Snake RAC boundary?
It is, and Shay and I were talking about, we shared that with the RAC a while back, but we can certainly share it again.
Well,
None of my family.
it's, yeah, I mean, it's such a massive area, and then,
Have you heard it?
I know, I've always been like,
If you ever make it.
River, so I'm like, John Day,
You made it all the way.
Snake. And, I mean, really, the boundary is, I guess,
The health center agreed.
You know what's really funny?
Yeah.
I still have the game on.
So, I wonder if, you know, there's the proposals
So like it.
to remove the Snake River
And
dams.
anybody made it all the way.
Yeah.
There's a,
You're like, yeah.
all the congressional, or, people back east are gonna be here. They're gonna, people back east, the congressional guys, they're all doing a big tour of the dams.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they're all gonna be over.
Oh, they are gonna be over here.
In relationship to taking them out.
Well, they're talking about what they need to do.
When is that? I wonder.
It was just a snippet. I saw it the other day. I'll ask my guys.
I
And then is that something, we've had people contacting us because we're on the grant, I mean, because we've guided on the Grand Ron for 20 years and how, you know, wanting to talk to us about, you know, how removing the dams, how that's gonna impact us and like, you know, basically what our thoughts are as, I mean, we're steelhead outfitters. And so of course, let's,
You know, the sockeye salmon run that goes to Redfish Lake?
yeah.
Yeah, they had 10,000 show up.
Oh, they did.
10,000.
Why, I want to know why the sockeye run is doing so well now. Must, yeah, compared to why you have the John, I mean, or why you have steelhead plummeting and all of a sudden it's like coho, sockeye are just like
Because it's
this.
the ocean and it does this.
Well, we're.
Wildlife does this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does, but it's, you gotta wonder, like, I know that NOAA's gonna start doing more research in the ocean. And the thing is where are the coho and the sockeye going in the ocean versus where are the steelhead going? And I mean,
It's such a hot topic button. I don't know if we'd want to get involved in that one.
oh, the dam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, well,
Mhm.
this group.
No, that's
maybe
great
couldn't
to have
come to
that
a
from-
consensus, but maybe you find some common ground, you know?
Yeah, well, the feds are gonna do it.
I overreacted probably, but I
People back
No,
east are gonna
that's
do what they wanna do.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll talk to some people, Mia, and see what I can come up with. I might reach out to you on it too.
Okay, okay. The little pig, this looks like a good place. to
Oh,
get
yeah,
A sandwich.
yep,
I'm gonna,
turn left on 10th
Yeah.
Street.
I got some coffee there early.
Yeah, they're good lunch. The taco bus down here has great food. The Paisano's Pizza does huge slices and salads.
The taco bus, oh, now what do I want? Everything I could.
It's
The roast beef sounded really good.
yeah, no, you can't go wrong. They're real
Or
good
taco,
options over there.
Okay, you can see where
Yeah.
my head is right now.
It's very much like
Food.
Mexican street food. It's
Okay.
great.
Mm.
We're going to get a subway and it was your daughter. And when I turned around, I thought that she was living. Went to a subway shop. We were going for the meeting. I didn't want to do the shit. You know, in the way we did it also.
Sir,
But she's walking.
No.
It's like, good morning. And she turns around and I'm like, I don't know. If I'm just kind of like dumbfounded because it's not the person I thought it was.
Well, no,
Yeah, I think she saw the look on my face because then she just started explaining, oh, we're here, we're gonna be doing something.
Oh, so you. Yeah, okay.
I'm like, I didn't know what to say after it wasn't Amber.
Yeah,
Who are you?
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
People in Turkey.
I get it.
Not many, no, but I'm like.
It's okay.
Yeah, well, you ask somebody, no.
Yeah, she's very like, oh, hi.
I'm not afraid of that.
Like the whole weekend.
I'm just going for the day. Yeah, they're gonna be involved in the session. All right, you ready to
Yeah,
go?
it was a lot of fun.
This where we
Thought I
put our
canceled
travel-
Cheers screen share, but apparently not.
I think he's coming out.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think that's gonna.
Well, I think you need to determine what unit has the need. What unit isn't already working on it, like building a fire there, right over there, or right over there.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
It can be handled internally without any.
No. Not adequate.
Pretty much.
You're talking about the.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. You're talking about the outside.
So John Day-Snake RAC, vice chair, the vote.
I nominate Jay.
Okay. Jinx on somebody. Does anybody else?
I move the nomination be closed.
I'll second that.
Hey. Shay, how do you feel about this?
I'm fine.
Okay.
It means a lot. Thank you.
You need to call for the vote.
There's a motion on the floor for nomination, Shay White. Is there a second? No,
Yes.
Yeah, it's already been done.
Yeah.
And a closure.
And a closure of that.
Right.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keys to the new car.
I go find them. I saw one up the road that was nice.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, we got roundtable. So. Katie, you want to start?
Good work on the wild forest plan for Murder Street. It's been a long standing problem in Grant County. This is one place where there is no conflict. My dispersed campers and my cattle ranchers completely united. Horses have souls, they need to be sterilized, not treated badly, but they are destroying the environment there because that's the way they eat. It's not their fault. So finally, taking steps. So thank God, because it's been bad. I want to talk to you about wolves, but I am really tired. So I think maybe there's going to be a delay. The wolf situation is brutal. It's vicious. I don't know how to get people to realize, to be realistic about what happens when you have wolves in your environment eating your animals. You know, it's like somehow those animals, if the milk cow calf has its guts ripped out, that's not real pain. And, you know, I mean, there's no compensation monetarily. The compensation may help keep you the area of ranch going, but, you know, this is PTSD level. I mean, all right, so I'm not talking about it anymore, but I'm gonna be talking about it in the future, just not. Actually wrote a speech at the Glasgow, and left it home, now is your blessing, God sent you today, so. But you won't escape forever. I'm gonna talk about the wolves. It's not what it seems, you guys. It's much worse than it seems.
Yeah.
I just have a question. You mentioned, wild horses in Murderous Creek. And is that a official, HMA unit?
You can't use the acronyms to make sense.
It's a horse management area, is what that is? And,
Yeah.
and it is?
So, Murderers Creek is a joint BLM and Forest Service herd management area. Most of it is on the forest. So they were the lead on the
Okay.
management plan for the Murderers Creek HMA.
At one of our future meetings, can we put a wolf discussion on the agenda?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
At least what you're supposed to say. We need our.
Can we get Greg to talk about it?
If not Greg, I know Phil Milburn's got a really good
That'd be
presentation.
good. If we can get somebody like that to come in
Thank you.
and, thank you, Kate.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Terry, for. That's what I should have done.
Jim?
I don't have a lot. I think, I'm pleased with the new subcommittee designations. I think e-bikes for me is a real huge one. And the trails that they ride or not ride. I don't have a lot more about that. I will say, to piggyback on the wolf thing, is it's pretty close to home. It's Lower Bridge, under the Chutes River, just north of Reading. So yeah, that's good to have that topic coming up. So that's all I have.
All right. Since I been a little gap in here from when I was on previously to now, but I see I'm still on all the committees.
Gone but not forgotten.
Yeah. One of the, I just want to touch on a couple of things, a couple of projects we're working on with the museum and the Forest Service, particularly the grassland, was on using cadaver dogs to find old graves, historic graves on the meat trail. And I can't say where it was or what they found, but I can tell you that's just that was one of the things that I promoted, because there's supposed to be people buried at these various sites. And I don't know if you're familiar with what cadaver dogs are. They were first started to find lost people or remains of people, and then they carried that on where they can actually go and find grave sites that are almost 170 years old.
Was your venture successful?
Yes,
Generally.
not fully, generally.
Okay.
I went to a couple of sites, fairly significant sites. Another one's a military site on the Dallas Canyon City Wagon Road by Antone. That was another site, but it was pretty exciting. And the Forest Service was very cooperative. They got us a quick thing to get to go through and do that, because this was something that was proposed to me. And so it's kind of fun to, I don't know if you've ever seen those dogs work, but they go out and crisscross a country, and then if they catch a sniff and it's stuff coming up from underground, and for 170 years, that seems amazing, but it comes up through plants and everything. And then when they find it, they just lay down and put their nose right where the strongest smell comes from.
Oh, wow.
And so they know they got a positive hit right there. That's kind of fun. And then the other thing is that just before we came to this meeting, I met with a retired archaeologist from the BLM, John Zancanella, and went out with some other archaeologists to look at some wagon sites, both the Steens Military Wagon Road, the Wallen Wagon Road, which came through Central Oregon, and a couple of the other wagon train routes And we went out and seen some pretty exciting traces of, that I didn't know was there. I thought I knew where most of them were at, but that's pretty exciting. This was out by the GI Ranch between Bend and Burns. And all I can say is those were damn hardy individuals. Some of the rocks they had to move out of. So that was just kind of exciting. Couple of things that happen here historically.
That's, Steve, I got a question for you. With, this isn't morbid or anything, but if they find burials, they're gonna just protect them, they're not gonna dig them up or
No,
anything?
no, absolutely. You have to follow the protocols. They just identify them, GPS it. The only information that goes out, doesn't go out to anybody else. It'll go out to the agency that manages that particular thing. And no other information goes out. That's why I'm not giving you any.
No,
information.
I'm not asking.
But that's what it is. There's absolutely no probing or digging or anything like that that you can. Just record where the site's at and let the appropriate agency know.
Cool. So,
We were involved in the one by Glass Age, where the tribes I worked with, and they said that they thought it was a historical area, that clowns kept knocking off some of the rocks that was their markers. They wanted to cut the big juniper tree that was the great old one. They brought out dogs, and I watched and witnessed that, and I didn't know if that was your group.
I probably the people that I work with probably were with that, because they're pretty prominent in that thing.
It was, and yeah, they left it as being that they found out, no, you can't be digging over here to the rock lines, because clowns were digging over there, and the tribe kept saying, hey, this is our sacred place. I thought, you're gonna dig up something, you're gonna bring grab it, you clowns. So that's good that you, I should have said that.
I agree.
But yeah, there were doofuses to do that, so good that you were involved.
And I think that's the reason that the Forest Service approved it, but because I was with the group and I'd worked with the agencies who knew what the protocols were. So anyway, good side note.
Some people seem like they're like avalanche dogs. You know, it's amazing. They can, you know, you're
Mhm.
very deep in the snow and they can find stuff. And comment, tell me where the dog scent some of the breeds 600 times our ability to smell stuff. An amazing ability to find things.
Just as I know, for Idaho, there's Massacre Rocks. That they went out and probed that because everybody thought that all the graves were in a certain spot. And the dog went out there and they weren't anywhere near where he was marking where everything was at. That's just an interesting.
that's interesting.
Couple things, I was seeing that, looking at e-bikes on Horse Ridge, and I really don't support that for a lot of reasons. The hiking there is real dangerous, and especially with that dogs, because they're just taking over that whole area, so I have a concern about that. The other thing I just wanted to share is because we had done that tour at that biomass plant on Day, and I've done some research and continue to do research, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about biomass, and it's not carbon neutral, it's not green energy, as is what we keep hearing. I'll just read some of my notes here. When wood pellets are being made, it's a toxic process from beginning to end. It's also hazardous and potentially deadly job. The concerns are around carbon monoxide and chemicals that are emitted during this process. There's all formaldehyde and all kinds of other things. The industry wants you to believe that, they're just taking slash piles, but they're taking hardwood. And on the East Coast in particular, they're clear cutting for making biomass. So I just think we need to pay real close attention and not jump into any conclusions around that. It's definitely a concern with climate change. It increases emissions. The science shows that biomass emits 1.5 times the CO2 of coal and 3 to 4 times CO2 of fossil per unit of energy produced. And at this point, I'm not aware, and I've been looking, of that there's any specific policies or regulations around biomass. And like I said, I would encourage people to start reading up on this, because I keep digging more and more and more. And that's the big push right now, but that's not helping us with carbon sequestering at all.
and it's not helping, even with the slash piles, that's wildlife habitat. And so anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Just one, because they are one of our board members, Jerry Brummer, working with the county, and they've done a lot of extensive stuff on that, and they are trying to do that in Prineville, so he would have been a good one to
Yeah.
to discuss that maybe at the next meeting.
Well, I'll send it a quick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to get everybody for being patient with thinking and moving. I think a lot of positive things for the meeting. I don't know if this is what we bring up, but working together and subject matters that came up. I'm excited to see what we work on ahead, how we progress with the committees. But I've enjoyed the field trip yesterday too. So I appreciate all the work everybody does to cooperate and the agencies too. So thanks, Melissa. Thank you, Joe. Anyone else that's listening to it on. It's good to be back. Coming back with kind of a broader view on everything, with utilizing the years of experience. And I'm excited about the mineral resource energy committee that we put together. Because like what you're saying, that we hear all of these alternative energies to what we need to, make things better. What we need to do is look at everything across the table. And then come back and say, okay, this is how we can make it better. And that's a really big thing right now. So this committee is the Snake John Day River RAC is the best in the whole system. So we take that into the future and we get things done. We have since we came together at the beginning. And just really know that whatever you're contributing to, it's contributing to the whole.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, a couple things. October 14th, there's an eclipse that's gonna last 4 minutes, and it is it's called an annular eclipse, and it is going to pass through southern Oregon, but also Sun River, kind of that the Chutes area is in the path of totality, I guess you'd say. So that's just something I think we should all be aware of with the BLM. I don't know if they're making any plans, in terms of people coming on, increasing on the use on public lands. So,
So if I could address that. So yes, the 2017 eclipse, Forest Service and BLM did a lot of planning, and it ended up being a little bit of a wah-wah. But we still have that framework in place, which is something I'm sure we'll rely on. But in this case, I know at least for Vail, we're looking at it's going to be in some of the more remote areas, and so certainly, any increase in numbers of people going into there is something we need to think about and be prepared for.
And I'll
Amanda,
just
yeah.
Go ahead, man.
a little bit further east, it was a massive attendance on public lands and impact of public lands. And so, Mia, thanks for bringing it up. I think we're looking at where those sites might be, and we're not anticipating the same level that we saw in 2017, but appreciate the reminder there.
What day was that again?
October 14th. And one more thing, I also, I know that there was discussion for a needs analysis of reopening, I guess, or amending RFP, or a needs analysis to see about allocating for outfitters on the John Day, and I just wanted to, I guess, bring that up again and see if that is gonna start taking place this year, and I guess that's maybe a question for Amanda.
Yeah, thanks, Mia. So what the next step in order to look at what an allocation might be is the BLM doing a needs assessment for the demand of outfitters and guides on the John Day. And so we are in that process. We're contracting it out to a third party to do that needs assessment. I know that Monica and Nick worked pretty hard to get the funding to be able to do that. It's not something we'd be able to do in-house. So I don't have a scheduled date for that, but my hunch is it would start this fall. And that's the next step that's required by our management plan to look at what an allocation could be.
Is that allocation of permits? Or what?
Allocating, so yeah, allocating permits to outfitters and
In lieu of the public allocation process that's been put in place.
so right now it's a common pool system and
Yes.
outfitters compete and we only get 2% of the passes and the public's getting 98%.
Even though the first 50% is taken out right at the very first of the year, and you can apply just like everybody else with those permits.
Yeah, everyone, so we are competing with the public.
Yes.
Yes, and outfitters are only getting 2%. And the system, if you read the resource management plan, it was created to be balanced and fair. Okay. So we right now, this year, our use, Marty and I, for the last 20 years, on average, would do 9 trips during the peak season. We are down to only doing 3 because we can't get permits. We can't compete with the public. So when you have a group of 16 people that are trying, okay, first in segment 2B, it's really easy to get 3A and B permits, but in segment 2, I think it is B, that's 30 mile of cotton. They're only issuing 4 a day, and that could be a group of 1 or a group of 16. Okay, so when you have a group of 16, and this happens, and we know it because people call us and they're like, oh, our group can't get the permit, even though they're like, okay, we're all going to put in, okay, for this day, all 16 of us, let's see if we can get this permit. And then you have, groups that maybe their group draws 2, permits. But we are an outfitter, we either have to hire people, okay, to try to get a permit. Okay, we can't plan. If you ever make plans when you go on vacation, well, you plan ahead. We can't plan, hard to plan a trip. If people are like, I want to go on this day, well, we don't know if we can get a permit even. So anyway, it's, yeah.
You don't, the spectrum point, you don't think that the new allocation, there's that many permits being offered right at the beginning of the year, then the only outlay of permits, you don't have a chance to pick up some permits?
We try.
I know when we talked before that it's like, okay, someone's coming from Louisiana or New York City, they want to come on this date. Well, half of those permits are being put out early, and you have as much chance to get them as I do.
Yeah, so there's just 2 being released.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but that's for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this issue is a reason for a subcommittee, because it's a tough one, and I think really appreciate it. And so I don't want to comment right now on the thoughts I have on the matter. I'd rather relegate it to a subcommittee. We could spend a long time talking about it. But I do have some ideas that may explain why we're here, how we got here, how we might get out of it. And I'd like to leave it to a subcommittee that will give them all my thoughts on it. That's all.
Okay, again, there's no anger in my voice, okay?
No.
Okay, so
It's, yeah, again, you have to look at the language of the resource management plan and look at that page, that chapter on the common pool system, okay? And it is intended to be a fair system, and that's for commercial and non-commercial use. And it's also, they made the John Day economical system based on the success of the Deschutes. And you have to look at those two rivers. The Deschutes is an entirely different river than the John Day. You have 4,500 CFS of water, and you have 182 permits being issued in segment 4 versus you have 4 permits. And even if you have a group, 4 a day, if there's 4 groups of 16, that's only, what is that, 82 people. So it's a totally, the John Day limits itself because of the water flow. Well, like you said, you might not even be able to go July 14th because it might only be 50 CFS of water.
Right.
So, there's so many different factors there that it's not the Deschutes, and they've made it basing it on the Deschutes.
So just going through my brain of, oh, Amanda has her hand up.
Go ahead, Shay, and I can follow up.
I don't know if I'm the right person to bring this up, but when we have our ethics training, I don't know, I don't know if we can, if we want to go down that road. Because the situation is you're a leasing.
So when I talk about it, I actually need to talk about it in terms of representing all the general and all, so you're right, I shouldn't bring up my specific property situation, but talk about it on a general. So me going, I'm just right now telling you to go read the resource management plan.
Correct.
I can say that. And that the fact that they are, I'm stating the fact that, they've, that is based on the success of the Deschutes. I mean, they've said that. And so I'm just reinstating something that they've said.
So I think we've moved into a potential future agenda.
Yeah, I think we need to
Yeah.
move that to an agenda item and discuss it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I like in Hill Canyon, there's one permit guy. He's got like 300 and some odd days over 90 days. Like how they allocate their stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous. And the pool of that is dumb. But I get where you're coming from because I don't agree with what's going on over there.
Yeah.
But I understand where you're coming from. But I think we need to move that to an actual agenda item.
Okay.
You think the agenda item for the RAC or agenda
Yes.
item for the subcommittee can come up and wrestle with this?
Let's talk about it
Well-
as a general.
Well, maybe do we
Yeah.
even need to talk about it until something actually, I mean,
So I'm not sure if Amanda still has.
Yeah.
her hand up,
maybe after they do come up with, a needs assessment, that's definitely a time when we.
Yeah, that would be a time.
Talk
we
about
could
it.
Talk about it.
But to just, debate, I guess, the values or
Fairness of it, and I
fairness
understand
of
that.
it, and it's been discussed before in a previous meeting, so.
Larissa, do you have a comment?
Amanda.
Or, Amanda, sorry.
I do. The first thing I want to say is that I think Mia should be representing the outfitters and guides and should be voicing not only her perspective, but the perspective of outfitters and guides, given that that's her seat on the RAC. Same for Brian Sykes, right? And then it's for everyone's consideration. The process that we're at now, right? We went through a public input process to implement the John Day Basin RMP. There were some changes that happened in going to rec.gov that actually implemented that public input process. And so there has been, since that was implemented in 2018, 2019, I think, right before COVID, maybe it was 2020. That is when it became very clear that the outfitters and guides are having trouble planning their business and having trouble getting permits. The BLM has instituted trying to phase this in, meaning allowing the outfitters and guides to have kind of an automatic permit that they can cash in based on each of the outfitters and guides historical use on the river, right? And so that has been consistent. We've extended that for a 4th year, which is outside of our resource management plan. And at this point, it has the potential to be risky, right? From the line officer's perspective, but we think it's a way that we can hold over to transition to a different system so that there's some ability to plan some trips for the outfitters and guides. While I think it's a worthwhile discussion among the whole RAC, just like Mia said, there's nothing to decide on at this stage. BLM is continuing to move through the process to determine what it could look like for an allocation process. And that would go through a public input process as well, of which there would be more discussion. And so, and it just takes time for us to get that stuff done. And so we're in the stages of that taking time, and we are moving forward. Before the next meeting, I can get a better date or a better sense of what the timeline is for that, that needs assessment. And I think it would also be a good discussion to have Brian, just schedule it when Brian and Mia could attend. I think he equally has a great perspective, similar to Mia's, but on the outfitter and guide perspective. And I just want to make sure that that was maybe not the summer meeting, but the fall meeting.
If I can share something since we've gotten a little bit further.
And I can't hear you, Tom, just for the record.
Go a little further discussion, and you mentioned rec.gov. Rec.gov is a big deal, that it entered into the scene. I don't know what year the BLM engaged it, but it's been a few years now that they were forced to, all on your allocations, do it. This last year, I and six other people applied for 5 rivers, I think. So 5 times 6 is 30 applications. We got 0. So what I'm trying to share with you to take home is, as a private, non-commercial, I call myself non-commercial, application, I got nothing. Okay, I got nothing in applying through rec.gov. Rec.gov has just inundated the system with applications. That's an additional big deal that's come on in recent years that affects this whole situation, I think. Just wanted to share that since we've carried on the discussion for that. Absolutely. Okay.
I just want to really quickly add that, I'm representing, well, I'm an outfitter, so I can represent outfitters. And I am a private voter as well, okay? So I put in for permits on the Middle Fork, on the Grand Canyon, on the road, and so, and I have a lot of friends that are private voters. And so I understand and that aspect of voting. I mean, I love rivers. Everyone should be able to get on a river and use the river. And that's that, like everyone, if you're somebody that doesn't have the boats and you want your grandchildren to go on, you should be able to hire a guide. If you're, a millennial, whatever, from Portland, you should be able to go on the river. It's a fair system. Everyone should be able to be able to get on the river. Okay. And so I'm a private voter. I totally understand it from both sides. That's all
My comment was in support of.
Yeah.
My comment was in support of the need. I hope you understood it.
Yeah.
I need to apologize. I need to apologize for what I commented about. I'm not sure if that is the right way of putting it, of what I said.
Oh, I don't even remember. What you said. I am not offended. I am really, you can't offend. I worked on commercial fishing boats. So
well, I think we need to put that as a.
I have large stars on
I
it.
think that's a good one to talk about because, to tell you the truth, rec.gov, I hate it. I hate rec.gov. There's no other choice. I know.
Does somebody have a timer or an alarm going?
It's Tom's watch. His watch keeps going off.
Oh, no. I've got to figure out how to use this thing.
Michael, need a hearing aid.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No.
So am I up on a round table?
Yes, sir. You're good.
Anchor round table?
I gotta go.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I had a couple things. First, not necessarily in order, are we still looking to look for additional representation, particularly tribal? Is that something that will occur over time?
Yes.
I'm
Here you go.
still looking for tribal. But again, a very small population of people left. And they're busy. And also Commissioner Jim Hampshire said he might, I think if someone says, well, I'm really busy, I understand that to be a yes. So, but I wanted to get back to you guys first because, I sort of went out on a mission. Like, do I need to bring a picture of Jim with his dog? But I forgot. I don't know what to do next.
Good.
And I have a tribal person that would be not sure they would take. The question is, are we open? When does it happen? Et cetera.
Okay.
Mm.
We were advised, I don't know, it's been a couple of weeks ago now, there will be a summer, I call it a call for nominations. But there will be a summer cycle. They're usually open for a month or 6 weeks. So that's when we formally take them in, but people can submit an application to me at any time. I just put it in the file, and when the next round comes up, I send those up. On the same subject, if any of you have terms expiring between now and the end of 2024, I would really encourage you to apply for reappointment now and during this summer cycle as well, because as we all know, it can take quite some time to get appointment. Okay.
TJ?
We do not have a person in that seat at this time on this.
Sounds like me though.
Environmental interests, technically.
Yeah. Yeah. So Teresa, there should be a range of viewpoints on the RAC, and Wild Horse and Burrow is certainly one of those options within the conservation category. We're not required to have a dedicated representative to each topic. But again, if we got an application for someone to represent Wild Horse and Burrow, I mean, I think that would certainly be a worthwhile application and given a lot of consideration, because Katie does, represent many of you. In fact, all RAC members really, can represent groups other than the ones they're assigned to, and bring those voices. But
This is my dispersed recreationists are concerned about the devastation of this small, delicate little plants.
right,
When the drought was so bad, Larissa. And
yes,
that's when I realized there's an overlap between them and the county.
Yes. yes,
But we recognize forces also in their
right.
personhood in Grant County.
So could you and I have a conversation offline? Because I understand your confusion, but I think I'd rather have the charter in front of me when I'm talking to you. Thank you.
So a couple other things I have. First, I guess it's a little, I attended the conference called Wilding, Oregon, which was extremely well attended. As a matter of fact, they overfilled. It was in Camp Sherman at the Lake Creek Lodge. And I was denied access to it because they were filled within a few weeks, but I got there through contacting friends. And so there's a lot that came out of that conference in terms of dealing with the wolves issue. So I'd be happy to kind of gather that and bring it to a discussion in terms of how the misunderstanding of wolves and the different sides of the issue and resolutions that are coming forward to solve it. So I really would like to engage in that discussion, not now, and share what I learned at the conference.
That would be Saturday morning. I just have one to share with you, which is the idea of doing it on pool degradation stats as of June 23rd.
And then I'd like to give a little quick background. I'm on the board of a nonprofit that deals with an area of BLM management and. I keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and so part of my concern that comes up regarding the staffing issue comes from the experience I've had on that board, and I've played a role having connections over the past with BLM to try to smooth out relations, because the board was really angst about what was happening in terms of lack of support and connection. Felt BLM didn't care, and I've spent a lot of time just trying to smooth over things and make them understand the situation that BLM faces. So that's part of the reason I'm concerned about this, because I've had to deal with a lot of that issue with an organization. So that's just a comment, so you understand why I come with that concern. So I think that's totally fine. And
Oh, comment, I lost it. Shoot. Oh, yeah. So yes, we are still looking for tribal, absolutely. Yeah, nomination stuff, absolutely.
right, yeah. So I'll relay I'll repeat a message sent to who did I send it to?
Randy, you sent it to Randy.
And I'll send it on, because I think I have some people who would accept it. This would be outrageously positive for this RAC.
I'll send some materials to the whole rack so that, you know, as you're talking to
Yeah,
people,
that would help.
you can share materials.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as far as, I also attended rewilding and was one of the sponsors of that. And so, I know quite a few of those presenters. And so what I could do is look and see if the presenter specifically what I'm going to do.
So I just wanted to chime in on the roundtable side, for the BLM, that, you know, we really appreciate that we have this RAC. And a lot of the things, and Amanda, you're welcome to chime in if you're still there. A lot of the things that we report out are just that. It's not things that we're specifically bringing to the RAC for anything more than like information sometimes. And some of our internal issues, say related to the recruitment, retention, the pay of firefighters. I remember that being a huge conversation a while ago. A lot of times those are just realities that we're in, and not really, or even the homeless issue, you know, just a reality that we're in, and not really something that we have a lot of sideboards in order to operate. And so like when we do talk about the homeless situation, it's more about like cleanup and natural resource approach, not say even wishing to tackle or address that issue as a whole. And yet we really appreciate the good energy, positive energy, and willingness to want to get things done and want to solve problems at your level. Where am I going with this? Oh, so when certain topics come up like that, you know, that a person's attention grabs onto, and your emotions and your concerns, I would really say, go to the charter, go to the original charter, read that first. And if it somehow feels like it's a fit, then let's continue that, and let's expand on that a little more. Because I think I won't speak for Amanda, but I can speak for myself. that sometimes we bring that up and, well, is there something we can do about it? Yeah, it'd be great if we could. But we don't want to waste anybody's time, and we don't want to put anybody in a uncomfortable position where we really would like to do something, but there's not a whole lot in our power to do. And I don't know if that made it worse or better.
I'll make sure everybody gets a charter too.
That's a good idea.
And Amanda, are you there? Did you want to chime in?
I think it was well said, Joe. That's
Okay.
all I'll say is
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, just, one more thing, I guess I could mention under roundtable, or wrap up. So I just got off the Grand Ronde and this incident made me think about ethics again, or etiquette, voter etiquette. But I pulled into a campsite and then there was a private group there that had, a fire ring that's not allowed, and it was still hot. And then they also had their toilets set up in the next camp on this bench. Basically, right where boats would pull up, they had the toilets set up, which basically deters people from going into that camp. So I really would love to see more outreach on voter etiquette. It really needs to be done. We had a fire pan and a fire mat because that's what's required. And that's the thing, outfitters, we tend to try to do the right thing. And, take up 2 campsites. So more, if you could put that, I don't know how we do this, but there needs to be more outreach to the public on voter etiquette.
The private, I'll pick up on that just real quick, and I have one quick thing. The private voters have those same kind of ethic issues as well. And I've gone by several camps where there's been some stuff left. So that person down below or up above is gonna take that campsite. So we have a lot of ethics too, so putting us all in one basket. I'm gonna go ahead and be Randy Jones for 30 seconds. When Randy, last time we met, he challenged all of us to come up with someone possibly for a new RAC member. And you've done that due diligence with an Indian person. I have a young man that's about 25 years old. He's still on the main middle fork of the salmon, guiding, runs sweet boats. He's 25, he is pumped. He wants to be on the RAC. He's going to be at the October meeting. Thank you, Larissa, that you said the applications are available. I hope everybody did their diligence and maybe send something to Randy and contacted at least one person, because I'm old, and there's going to be a time when there's going to be lots of empty seats in here, and we need that young blood coming in.
I'll withdraw Commissioner Hampshire for now, because you do have to the people and he is busy. But you keep him in our back pocket, and it also allows us to share that he's not as white-bread as he sounds. His mother Mexican and Native American, so he wants to reassure you that we would be actually getting a diverse element that you're presently lacking. But I'm putting him on the shelf now for your guy here, that.
Hold this out.
All right. So we're gonna do, oh, go ahead.
Real quick, you guys have a chance to go through our museum for free. I really want to encourage you to do that. It's really a great museum. And we have a rock room in there that's one of the best on the West Coast. 2 sisters that were born in Baker County. They traveled their life around the world gathering all of this stuff. And when they passed on, they passed it on to the museum.
Oh,
It's really, you would really enjoy it too. The history of it is really great. So with that, I'm out.
So,
Little Fork Rock today. Right here, you say. My grandmother dug this out in Little Fork of the Johnson. So if you don't. This, the fossil, I'm a fossil, and I'm a museum here to watch this thing, this goes often.
so I really don't have much to update. I just want to thank everybody for nominating me and like I said, it means a lot.
So 20 years from now, are you still gonna thank us?
I don't know.
It's taken 20 weeks.
No, I know.
We'll try to find that key for you.
So we have a wrap up. Do we need to? We kind of did it.
Next
Just
meeting,
briefly, yeah, so the next meeting is in Maupin in October. Do y'all need the dates or? Okay, hang on, yeah.
So
See
whenever
if I
it's in
can-
October, Mia, how is it for getting housing, lodging down there at that time?
Easy.
Imperial, probably, that's one.
Yeah, it's easy. It's the
Hmm.
off season and we'll be lucky to have a steelhead season this year, so
That's-
it'll be good. Hopefully we do.
Oh, 19th and 20th.
20, right?
Yeah,
October?
Yes.
What do we have next? We have another one scheduled.
so, in October, we will schedule for 24.
So we don't have any, October's the last one.
October's the
Yes,
last
yes.
one we've
Okay,
got
perfect.
scheduled so far.
Thanks very much for your, being willing to take on this responsibility.
So, so potential topics
Topics. Hang on.
for
Hey,
Maupin. We have discussed checking out those new prime,
Mia, Tom.
we have discussed a field tour to the new Prineville facilities down there. So we're just, new construction, just launched.
And this is, what are they constructing?
So we got,
Oh, we're talking about the BLM.
Right.
About the mall, yeah.
Mhm.
We just finished all those housing and stuff up there.
yeah,
Good tour of that.
That'd be cool.
yeah. And any other topics? We should, I believe, Amanda, will at least have a placeholder for the North Bar North Campground.
Great. And a subcommittee date prior to that, right, Larissa?
Right.
Thank you.
I wanted to finish that conversation.
Okay,
Oh, about something to do on the issues
I
like a
will get
boat, like,
stuff to you.
Thank you.
I mean.
You'll have everything you
not
need.
gonna supply all the boats. Sorry.
I just had a thought, if the weather's good at that October meeting, you know, it's possible we could do a short, it's about 2-3 hours.
Last thing, giggle.
Are you, wait, are you talking like what a float from it? Like,
Just a short float.
oh, are you talking like Maupin, like launch at like Perfect Flats and take out at Sandy Beach? I mean, yeah, we could if there's a few other people who, I mean, you row.
I got boats, 2 of them.
Okay, I row.
I
Is
go.
anyone else?
Yeah, I could, man.
You can
Okay.
row. I mean, if you guys wanted to, we could try to arrange it. I mean, let's not.
Okay.
I just throw that idea out because
Yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity. to
Yeah,
talk
no,
about.
it's definitely something we can look into, and we have done. Did we float the snake or did we jet boat? So I mean, it's, yeah, we've done some of those kinds of activities with the RACs before, so,
And just to come, that's a short float.
yeah, okay.
This is something to maybe look at, I mean, if we're in Maupin, and I don't know exactly what the agenda is, I assume that, well, I mean, Pineville is gonna be there.
Right,
And, I would like to, maybe start a discussion or not about Harpin Flats. It's managed by Warm Springs Tribe, but I don't know if that's in conjunction with the BLM. And that is a, you know, it's a public campsite in a very busy boat ramp. And, but the campsite is just awful. It is, there's no tree, goat heads have and weeds are just everywhere over there.
Okay.
And so, is there a possibility of the BLM working with the tribes to improve that campsite for the visitors experience?
Amanda?
I don't think the Indians want to have anything to do with that. They
Well-
want their $2 and that's all they want.
I mean,
Okay.
it's.
I'm gonna counter that, Jim. Sorry.
Okay.
I just want to say that I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Warm Spring tribe and what they've got for limitations with regard to staffing and capacity. And the friendly reminder that all of the BLM lands are lands ceded by the tribes, right? And the capacity and limitations that they have. We're happy to work with the tribe. I also think that it might be a useful place where potentially organizing a volunteer event. The river is jointly managed by the BLM, the tribe, and the state. And so we collectively and collaboratively do manage that. And they met us down there and want to make sure that their interests on the river are intact while supporting recreational use. So perhaps we can have a tribal member attend the RAC meeting and we can talk about it. I think we can make a recommendation. I feel like the BLM does have a good relationship with the tribe. And if there's added capacity, the RAC could either help coordinate or bring. That might be an area where there's some value for a volunteer day, et cetera, depending on what their interests and needs are.
This is Jim. I think the Maupin City and the mayor could get involved because they had a river cleanup day. Or going to have it.
Yeah,
It already happened. They do periodically, and I think that might be a good setup there too, to have a volunteer day.
Okay.
So,
And we'd be also happy to host a tour of the new bake oven facility that is both quarters and our boat storage, et cetera. Hugely improved facility.
Yeah, Caitlin and I've already discussed that. Definitely
Great.
get out there, so.
possible discussing thing for when we're there also is the solar array that's up at Crine's place. I think it's on hold right now.
It is on hold.
And maybe we could have someone come and discuss what's going on up there. It's like a half a mile wide by 5 miles long on private land.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's the connectivity to the grid or a myriad of other things, but it's quite a ways along.
So,
It is huge.
so I don't know how much we could do in terms of something on private. We could look into that. I do know the state office, they're working on a programmatic EIS for utility scale solar. And they were hoping to be ready to present to the RAC this month. They weren't able to do that, but they do want to be with us in October. So maybe it's a bigger discussion that we can have.
Okay, that's just a thought.
No, I'm just trying to kind of think how we can frame it.
Okay. We got public comment.
Just 1 minute on the, and I'll offer it. There's some of the people, when we held them out the last time, but I gave a program on the Deschutes River Railroad War with a lot of historic photos.
Yeah.
And if that's something you would be interested in, I would certainly be willing to show it whenever we can fit it into anything. It doesn't have to be any specific thing, but it is, if you're not familiar with that, that was a major event and went right through Maupin. So.
The Railroad War, is that what it is? Yeah.
Railroad War, 1910.
I'm intrigued.
In my house.
Okay, other thoughts? We'll certainly poll all of the agencies and see if they have anything they want to bring to us. If you have ideas, reach out. Just shoot me and or Caitlin an email and we'll see if we can get it on an agenda.
Okay. Go ahead.
One more question, should we bring pop tents for our camping just in case we don't have any sleeping facilities?
Can we stay at Fake Oven, Amanda?
Oh, no.
It's gonna be fine. It's October, it's the off season, literally the off season.
Yeah, okay,
There's gonna be lots of vacancies.
okay,
They'll be going.
all right, so let's do public, just
Yeah,
one more time.
Public comment? TJ, do you have anything? All right, thank you. So, I'll call for an adjournment.
Seconded.
All in favor?
And best wishes to Caitlin and her wedding
Yes,
and happy future.
What?
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Zoom. Really appreciate it.
Thanks to everyone on the rack
Okay.
and Larissa for all your coordination and Caitlin for all your coordination.
you bet, it was a great team effort, Amanda.
Yeah.
Oh, I was kidding you.